Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on What If Naruto fathered Yasaka and Bed Harem movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. Naruto had finally arrived. His heart was doing a $190 at how close he had been to getting caught, but he still managed to succeed in making it to this place with the sacred scroll of the village. Now, all he had to do was wait for his teacher to arrive so that he could finally become a genin. Glancing back towards the village, the young Uzumaki hummed thoughtfully. He had been able to get away nearly unseen, although he had to resort to cheap but also strangely effective tactics against his Gigi aka Hiruzen Sarutobi the third Hokage. But who would have thought that the kind old man the village looked up to for wisdom and guidance was a major pervert? Still, he didn't feel like belittling his good fortune, and it was still pretty early until Mizuki was supposed to arrive. Laying the scroll down in front of him, his blue eyes looked at it with curiosity. What was so important about this particular scroll anyways? Allowing his curiosity to get the better of him, he opened it to take a peek. The first thing he saw was a jutsu. A technique that shinobi were able to use. It was a clone technique, and he couldn't help but pout as he felt like pulling out his hair. After all, it was a clone technique that caused him to fail, which is why he was taking this makeup test. But he gave it a closer look. Unlike the one taught in the academy, this clone technique made solid clones and required a great deal of chakra. The energy that shinobi used in everyone had within them. But it was also a life force one could not live without it. It amazed him that it only required a single hand seal, which was the form of crossed fingers in an addition symbol. Deciding to give it a try, he copied the illustration of the hand seal and concentrated, bringing forth his immense chakra and whispered, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." Naruto kept his eyes closed as he heard a popping sound. He had little hope that it would work. Which was why he had also whispered instead of declaring the jutsu. Cracking a single eye open, he took note of a perfect copy of himself sitting across from him. Opening both of his eyes fully as he observed his copy's appearance. From the feet up, he saw blue ninja sandals, worn down bright orange pants that were quite large and held together by a rope, an equally orange jacket with blue on the shoulders and a thick white collar, and the swirled tassel that old man Hokage had given to him when he first started the academy. On the copy's face, he saw his 3 whisker birth markings on each cheek, bright blue eyes with a hint of violet in them, and his spiky sun-kissed blonde hair. It was a perfect copy of himself, all the way down to the green pair of goggles he had. "I can't believe it," he gasped. "It actually worked?" "Yup, looks like it, boss," the clone replied while grabbing the original to prove that it was solid. "That was very easy." "But why did this clone technique work so easily, but I can't perform the academy one?" The clone simply shrugged. "I don't have the slightest clue." Naruto was about to continue speaking to his clone, but suddenly both Naruto and his clone felt a weird sensation. Glancing up, Naruto noticed what looked like a gaping hole in the sky as something fell out falling towards him. Both the original and clone's once confused expressions were replaced by shock, concerned looks on their faces as well as a small amount of blush. 4x. Kyoto was the Yukai capital of Japan, and the home of the Western Yukai faction, ruled by Yasaka, the daughter of Tamamo, an ancient kitsune created by Amaterasu. Yasaka had become the ruler of Kyoto roughly 64 years ago after she reached the level of power needed to maintain the ley lines, an immense spiritual power flowing throughout the city of Kyoto. Despite being groomed into the position of leader, Yasaka couldn't help but wonder why her. She knew it was because she was a 9-tailed fox, the rarest breed of kitsune, aka fox yukai, the absolute pinnacle of all yukai. But she never wanted this position, nor did she want to be trapped in the city forever. But she knew better than to bring up the subject to her mother or Amaterasu, so she bit her tongue and hopefully waited for some fool to take her position. Now don't get her wrong, she loved the people of Kyoto, both the humans and the yukai. But everyone looked at her as if she was a prize to be won, which was another reason why she hated being trapped in Kyoto. And worst of all, the moment she was given the position of leader, her mother left Kyoto and pretty much hasn't been seen since. Sitting in front of a beautiful koi pond outside of a large ancient Japanese-style palace was a young woman who appeared to be in her early 20s, with a voluptuous figure and very long blonde hair with matching eyes. She has delicate facial features and her eyebrows are cut very short and round, a symbol of nobility. Her hair was held back by a traditional hair ornament, with 6 golden bura kanzashi and several red kanzashi. She was wearing a traditional shrine maiden attire and has 9 golden foxtails and matching ears. Yasaka stared into the clear pool of water as she watched the various types of koi fish swimming with one another. The reflection of the moon could be seen in the water as well. "I wish there was something more out there for me, as I really don't want to be stuck here for the rest of my existence," the beautiful vixen thought to herself. Yasaka then reached into the sleeve of her miko as she pulled out a pure black gem. She held it in between her fingers, almost playing with it before squeezing it tightly. She remembered what Amaterasu told her about this gem. It had the power to dump anything it was thrown it into another dimension. She had thought about this many times, using the gem on herself, as she was getting sick and tired of hearing the elders moaning and groaning about her taking a mate. They would always offer up arrogant, rich and quite cruel yokai of different races, ranging anywhere from Inagami, monkey yokai and Karasu Tengu. I wonder what will happen to the city if I leave. I'm sure they can find someone to take my place. I'm sorry, haha, you and you as well, Amaterasu-sama. But this just isn't for me. I hope you can find it in yourself to forgive me. Yasaka thought as she crushes the gem in her hand before throwing it to the ground. The remains of the gem exploded right beneath Yasaka as she was engulfed in swirls of black flames. The swirls grew in force, becoming a maelstrom, and when it cleared, she was gone. And by the time the other yokai and Shinto priests got there, it was already too late. Yasaka was gone. Yasaka-sama. She's gone. How could we have let this happen? We must inform Amaterasu-sama at once. Needless to say, the Western yokai faction was in disarray at the loss of its leader. The next thing Yasaka knew, she was being flung through a sea of swirling colors and lights, nearly blinding her while the pull of the space kept her from struggling. A bright light was seen, getting bigger as she approached, and her eyes were forced to close as it engulfed her completely. Once the light died down, she felt her body in freefall as she was falling towards the ground at a high speed. It wouldn't be the first time she had fallen from a great height. Due to her lineage as a kitsune, she was capable of surviving things normal humans wouldn't be able to. So, falling from a couple of thousand feet in the air wasn't going to kill her, but it was gonna hurt like hell though. However, something concerned her. She was falling towards two small shapes, and as she got closer, she realized that it was two blonde-haired boys who resembled one another. Get out of the way! Yasaka cried down to the two boys. However, it was already too late. She was moving too fast as she landed on one of the two boys, crushing him. 4x. 4x. The clone could only stare on in disbelief as this gorgeous blonde-haired woman landed on his original. He could only assume that the original Naruto was still alive, because if he was dead, he would have dispelled immediately. But the clone couldn't help but marvel at the woman's beauty. It was otherworldly. No normal human should be this beautiful, but then again, the ears and tails were a clear giveaway that she wasn't human. The woman's eyes quickly flickered open as she glanced at the clone. Who are you, miss? The clone asked as the woman blinked a few more times before replying. My name is Yasaka, she said as she couldn't help but frown. I'm sorry, I think I might have killed your sibling, she said in a voice filled with nothing but sorrow, showing how sincere she was. The clone nonchalantly waved his hand at her. Nah, the boss is all right. If he was dead, I would have dispelled. The clone said as Yasaka raised an eyebrow in confusion. The words boss and dispel truly confused her. How could this boy be so laid back and calm after she just landed on his brother? However, the noise of muffled yelling caught Yasaka's attention as she looked down and noticed a mop of spiky blonde hair sticking out from where her breasts were. Naruto, for his part, could not move a single part of his body. His body was screaming in pain, but it was subsiding rather quickly, just like all his injuries. Although the thing that was bothering him the most was his lack of oxygen, and this woman's massive boobs smooshed against his face. And either of her breasts were bigger than his head, and for some strange reason, he wanted to play with them. Yasaka quickly pushed herself off Naruto before offering him a hand, which he graciously took as he groaned in pain as he stood to his full height. Man, lady, were you trying to crush me? Naruto groaned as he glared at Yasaka, who gave him a sheepish expression. Please forgive me, young man. I did not mean to land on you. I did tell you to get out of the way, but you chose to ignore my words, Yasaka said. She's got you there, boss. The clone replied in a smart-ass tone. Whose side are you on? Naruto yelled at his clone, who simply stuck his tongue out at his original. I'm confused. Why do you keep on calling your brother boss? Yasaka asked, tilting her head to the side. Oh, he's not my brother, he's just a clone of me. I used this really cool jutsu called Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto exclaimed with excitement as Yasaka studied Naruto closely. He was completely human from what she could tell, and yet he was filled with chakra. She did not recognize her surroundings, so she decided to ask him a question. You wouldn't happen to know where we are currently, young man? Yasaka asked in a polite manner as Naruto looked at her as if she was crazy. However, before speaking, Naruto thought maybe she had hit her head when she landed, so perhaps she didn't remember. Well, we're currently in the elemental nations, more specifically the land of fire, and we're currently in the village known as Konoha. Naruto explained as Yasaka seemed deep in thought. It seems the gem worked, but now I'm in a strange land and quite possibly a different world altogether. Yasaka thought as she decided to play it off as if she was traveling. But before she could think up a story, the blonde-haired boy in front was staring at her with a look of fear and awe. Hey lady, you're a nine-tailed fox, Naruto said in a shaky tone. Yasaka noticed that she had forgotten to hide her tails and ears and seeing no way of getting away with this. Yes, I am. Is that a problem? She said in a sweet tone as Naruto shook his head. No, it's just my home was attacked by a nine-tailed fox 13 years ago. Naruto said in a nervous tone as Yasaka stared at him with a look of disbelief. But then she sensed something about Naruto, a dense evil presence coming from his stomach area. It felt similar to her own, only much stronger and eviler. Don't tell me someone sealed, Yasaka thought before something else popped into her head. What was this young man doing out here all alone? What are you doing out here all by yourself, young man? Yasaka asked as Naruto was getting frustrated with being called a young man. My name is Naruto, got it, lady, Naruto yelled as Yasaka smacked him upside the head with one of her tails. Well, Naruto, it's not polite to yell at a lady. And my name is Yasaka, not lady. Now will you please tell me why you're out here all by yourself? Your parents must be worried sick about you? Yasaka asked. Well, Naruto paused. Why did he feel so calm around Yasaka anyways? He literally just met her not even 5 minutes ago. And yet, he just didn't get these feelings. They were weird. You see, I am out here doing a makeup test in order to become an official shinobi, and all I had to do was steal the sacred scroll and learn a single jutsu from it. And Mizuki said he was gonna meet me out here. Naruto said nonchalantly as Yasaka's eyes narrowed. This doesn't sound right. I've never heard of a makeup test like this before. Someone must have set him up and manipulated him into stealing the scroll, Yasaka thought as she turned her full attention on Naruto. Naruto-kun, I believe you were set up by whoever told you this, Yasaka said in a serious tone as Naruto tilted his head to the side in confusion. What do you mean I was set up? Naruto said, obviously confused beyond belief. Mizuki-sensei would never do anything like that to me. Yasaka shook her head. Things just don't add up and it's too convenient. This Mizuki person is taking advantage of you, and most likely wants that scroll for himself. So, he used you to get it. I do not know why he would choose you, but from what I can tell he's most likely either going to kidnap you or kill you once he gets the scroll. Yasaka explained as the look of despair and dread appears on Naruto's face. Fear, a sensation Naruto was all too familiar with, was now coursing through his veins. He was scared, truly scared. This shit always happens to him. Why? Why would people always abuse him, ignoring him, using him for their own gain? What has he done that was so bad that he deserves this treatment? What do I do? Naruto felt as if he was gonna cry. However, a pair of soft hands gently grabbed his whiskered cheeks. Yasaka kneels to his height as she gave him a heartwarming smile. You're going to return the scroll to where it was and explain to your leader or master what truly happened. And if it makes you feel any better, I'll go with you, Naruto-kun, Yasaka said. Naruto stared at her with a look of disbelief before tears streamed down from his eyes. They weren't tears of sorrow but joy. Finally, he had finally found someone who saw him for who he truly was. He couldn't help but give Yasaka a big wide foxy grin which caused the drop-dead gorgeous vixen to smile back. 4x. Naruto sat in front of Hiruzen, who was staring at Naruto with a serious expression on his face. Although this woman Yasaka seemed to have quite the influence on his surrogate grandson. Though he had never seen or met the woman before, though he would get to the bottom of this. That's quite the story you told me, Naruto-kun. Do you know why Mizuki would do this? Naruto shook his head. No, I don't, Naruto said while shrinking under Hiruzen's gaze. Hiruzen sighed. He really couldn't blame Naruto for this. The boy simply had too much chakra for his own good to perform academy-level jutsu. Iruka seemed to have crushed Naruto's dreams yet again, though the academy teacher didn't do it intentionally. Hiruzen would really have to change the standards of the academy graduation requirements. Very well, Naruto-kun, I'll see to it that you are given the rank of genin for learning a Junin-level ninjutsu. But you are not to tell anyone about this incident, are we clear? Hiruzen said as Naruto nodded. Very well, Naruto-kun, you're free to go, although I want to talk to your friend here for a little bit. Hiruzen said as Naruto looked like he wanted to protest but decided against it. After Naruto left, Hiruzen set his sights on Yasaka, who had been sitting on the couch off to the side quietly. So, who are you exactly, miss? My name is Yasaka. It's a pleasure to meet you, Hokage-sama. But as you can tell, I'm not from around here, Yasaka said while deciding to be completely honest with the old man in front of her, as he seemed to be a kind and fair old man. Yasaka stood from the couch before allowing her kitsune features to show. Needless to say, Hiruzen stared at her with a look of disbelief before narrowing his eyes. What are you? Are you related to the nine-tailed fox that attacked us? Hiruzen said while releasing his killer intent, while Yasaka shook her head. No, I am not. The fox that most likely attacked you was a Yoko. They are known to be very cruel and vicious and have a strong hatred for humans. I, on the other hand, am a kitsune, a benevolent being. We will not cause harm to humans unless given probable cause. I mean you and no one in this village any harm. Yasaka said in a calm tone while her tails swayed from side to side. Hiruzen did not take his gaze off Yasaka. I'll take your word for it for now, but if you show any sign of being a rabid beast, we will seal you away. Hiruzen said in a serious tone as Yasaka nodded. I wouldn't dream of it, though there's something I wish to ask you. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. And what might that be? Yasaka glared at the old man. The fox you speak of, the Yoko, it's sealed inside of Naruto, isn't it? Hiruzen was taken back by this information, however, he couldn't help but rub his forehead as he sighed. Yes, it is. But I must ask you not to tell Naruto-kun about it. Hiruzen said before Yasaka slammed her fist down on his desk, forming a large crack in the desk, causing the old man to jump. Are you insane? Have you seen what those things you call villagers are doing out there? They openly curse him, calling him a demon, and I can only imagine what else they're planning to do to him when he's alone. He obviously doesn't know why they're doing that, so I ask you why. Why haven't you told him? Yasaka said while she hadn't raised her voice not once. Hiruzen was taken back by this as he couldn't help but turn away from the foxwoman in front of him. The lines in his forehead were clear as day, showing just how old he truly was. I wanted to give him a childhood that he could enjoy and what? Obviously, that failed. I can clearly see the psychological damage done to him. If you don't tell him soon, I will. It's better that way because eventually if he does find out later, and it could cause him to defect from this village. Believe me, I know what happens when you keep secrets away from people. It can cause a shift in someone's personality and completely change who they are as a person. He's such of a pure-hearted child, but he could become a cold-blooded monster if left in the dark for too long. Yasaka said in a rather harsh tone. Hiruzen had never really thought of that. He thought implanting the idea of becoming Hokage would be enough to keep Naruto from tipping over the edge. There's so much that I've kept from him as I thought I was keeping him safe. Perhaps you're right, Hiruzen said with a look of sadness in his eyes. I have a suggestion though, Yasaka said. Hiruzen glanced at the foxwoman before him as he raised an eyebrow. And what might that be? Yasaka gave him a smile. I'll keep Naruto from falling into that endless pit of despair. Allow me to care for him, he's such of a pure-hearted boy and I would hate to see him turn. Plus, he will be quite the looker when he gets older. Yasaka said while licking her lips as her tails began to sway back and forth a bit faster. Hiruzen for the first time in his life was jealous of Naruto. What would you do, Minato, if you were still alive? Hiruzen thought to himself. 4x. Naruto lazily walked down the main street of Konoha. He should be happy right now and yet he wasn't. He was one step closer to becoming Hokage, but it felt almost bittersweet. He felt as if he didn't truly obtain the rank of genin. It felt like it was given to him, which was something he never wanted to begin with. If he couldn't earn it through his own hard work, tears, sweat, and blood, he didn't want it. But he wasn't about to deny it either. He would just have to work that much harder to prove himself worthy of the title of Hokage. The usual big grin he wore was replaced by a frown. He was ignoring all the looks and all the chatter the villagers and shinobi sent his way. His mind began to wander towards his academy teacher Mizuki. Why would he do that to him? What had he done that was so bad to make his teacher hate him so much? Did Iruka hate him just as much as well? I found you, Naruto. Naruto lazily turned around and saw Iruka staring at him, as the man had a look of anger and disappointment on his face. However, Iruka was surprised by the lack of reaction he got out of Naruto, who seemed to be more lost in his thoughts. What is it, Iruka-sensei? Because I'm really not in the mood, so whatever you want to scold me about, do it now. Naruto said. His voice sounded almost emotionless. Iruka was taken back by this. What happened to Naruto? Naruto, do you know how much trouble you're in right now? Iruka said, trying to speak as calmly as possible, while not trying to gather the attention of everyone around them. If you're talking about the scroll, I already returned it to Gigi. I found out that Mizuki-sensei set me up. He told me to take the scroll and meet him in the woods. Luckily for me, a friend of mine was able to show me that Mizuki had ulterior motives. Naruto said softly before turning around to walk away from Iruka. And for the record, sensei, this wouldn't have happened if you would have helped me with the clone technique. But no, you're just like everyone else in this village, Naruto said harshly before making his way back towards his apartment. Iruka stood there, his mouth agape similar to a fish gasping for breath while being out of the water. Naruto, Iruka thought to himself as he watched Naruto disappear into the distance. He couldn't help but feel responsible for this, while in all actuality he was responsible for this. 4x. A young man with white shoulder-length hair with a slight hint of blue to it and green eyes. He was wearing the standard attire of the Konoha nin, which consisted of a flak jacket and forehead protector in the form of a bandana. He leaned up against the small cabin as he had his arms crossed underneath his chest, lightly tapping his foot against the ground. Where the hell is that brat? Mizuki thought to himself as he was wondering whether Naruto got caught or not. His plan was perfect. using his silver tongue to persuade Naruto into stealing the scroll of sealing. And once he met Naruto out here, he would kill him and steal the scroll and bring it to Orochimaru. Mizuki, you are charged with treason. A voice called out from behind the Chunin. Mizuki whipped around, grabbing one of his large shurikens off his back when he came face to face with several Anbu with their swords at the ready. You will come with us. Failure to do so will result in your death. The man wearing the dragon mask said in an emotionless tone. Mizuki felt a chill go down his back. The brat ratted him out, didn't he? There is no way he can win this battle. One Chunin against 7 Anbu was not good odds. Raising his hands up in surrender, the traitorous academy teacher was taken into custody. I'll get you back for this, you damn demon brat. Mizuki mentally cursed Naruto out. 4x. 4x. Naruto walked up to the door leading to his apartment, pulling out his key and unlocking the door. Upon entering his apartment, Naruto came face to face with Hiruzen and Yasaka sitting at his small crummy table. Yasaka, Gigi, what are you guys doing here? Naruto asked, confused. Hiruzen gave a deep sigh. Naruto-kun, come sit with us, we have much to discuss, Hiruzen said, sounding very old and tired. Yasaka, on the other hand, remained quiet as she gestured for Naruto to sit as her tails were gently swaying from side to side. Naruto felt nervous as he took a seat in front of both of them. Am I still in trouble about the scroll? Hiruzen shook his head. No, Mizuki has been taken into custody and is currently in the interrogation unit. But that's not what I'm here to tell you about. I'm about to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. I honestly thought I was doing this for your own protection, but Yasaka-san has opened my eyes and showed me that the only thing I was doing was pushing you towards the edge. Hiruzen said as Naruto's eyes widened. What do you mean pushing me towards the edge? Yasaka decided to speak up. What Hiruzen-sama is trying to say is that he's going to tell you why the village hates you so much and about your parents, isn't that right? Yasaka said while giving Hiruzen a creepy stare which caused the old man to shiver. Naruto's eyes were so wide that they were threatening to pop out. Hey, wait a damn minute. I thought you said you didn't know my parents? Naruto yelled, standing up from his seat while pointing a finger at Hiruzen. I did what I thought was best for you, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said as he could see the anger and hatred in Naruto's eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. All I ask is that you don't take out your anger on the village, take it out on me instead. Hiruzen said as Naruto's eyes widened even further. What do you mean? While I'll admit I did think about burning this village down to the ground when I was younger, but Naruto stopped as he took a calming breath. Why do the villagers hate me so much? Naruto asked, well, rather demanded. The truth of the matter is, Naruto-kun, our 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, did not kill the 9-tailed fox. You see, a tailed beast is a creature which was born from nothingness. It's completely comprised of chakra, meaning it cannot be truly killed. The only way to stop a tailed beast is to seal it away, and usually they're sealed inside of humans who are known as Jinchuriki, or power of human sacrifice. Hiruzen said as Naruto's eyes widened. The fox, it's sealed inside of me. Does that mean I'm... Naruto was cut off by Yasaka, who put her hand on his shoulder. No, you are not the fox. You are Naruto Uzumaki, a victim of the Yoko inside of you. You should be seen as a hero for not only holding back the beast within you but also saving everyone in this village from its wrath. But humans have a difficult time letting go of the past and looking past their own hatred and fear. So, you serve as a painful reminder of the events of that night. Yasaka explained. Then why would the 4th Hokage choose me? Hiruzen pulled out a vanilla folder before handing it to Naruto. Naruto, before you read this, please understand that Minato didn't have a choice in the matter. Hiruzen said as Naruto took the folder before opening it. Upon seeing the contents of the folder, Naruto dropped it to the ground. His whole world stopped. Impossible, I'm the son of Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, the red hot habanero. You are also the sole heir to the Uzumaki clan. But I must tell you, both your mother and father loved you unconditionally, and your father asked for you to be seen as a hero. Hiruzen explained as he watched Naruto carefully as the young Uzumaki did not move. But I must ask you, Naruto-kun, now that you know this, what are you going to do? Hiruzen asked, wanting to know what Naruto would do next. Naruto clenched his fists tightly. What will I do? Naruto said softly before he gave a soft chuckle. Well, if you think I'm going to get revenge against the village, I'm not. It's far too troublesome, plus I'm not one to hold grudges. However, I will not become Hokage to a village that is incapable of seeing the sacrifice my father gave nor honor his dying wishes. Naruto said as Hiruzen was taken back by this information. Didn't you just say you wouldn't hold a grudge? Hiruzen asked, puzzled, as Yasaka also nodded in agreement. True, I will not hold grudges against the villagers, but I'm done trying to gain their approval. If they want to fear me, then let them. I'm not going to waste my time trying to make them see who I truly am. Naruto said as he sat back down in his chair. Yasaka then looked at Hiruzen. Did his parents ever own a home? because I believe it would be a far better place to live than this crummy little apartment. No offense, Naruto-kun. Yasaka apologizes to Naruto, who simply shrugged his shoulders. Don't worry about it, Yasaka. Although that would be nice to stay somewhere better than this, Naruto said. Hiruzen sighed once again. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but your parents' home was destroyed in the Nine Tails attack. However, there is a large shrine on the edge of Konoha. And being the Uzumaki heir, it now belongs to you, Naruto, and if you want to you can move there, and it has enough space to house 10 people. Hiruzen suggested as Naruto seemed to think about it for a second. I guess it couldn't be any worse than my apartment, Naruto said before nodding in accepting Hiruzen's offer. Yasaka smiled as she clapped her hands together. Wonderful, I'm going with you, Naruto-kun, because you're far too young to be living on your own. And I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I stayed with you, would you? The vixen said as her once warm gaze turned slightly predatory as she was staring at Naruto like a piece of meat for a moment, causing the young Uzumaki to shiver. Sure, I don't mind. Naruto chuckled nervously while scratching the back of his head. Hiruzen was mentally cursing Naruto, if only he was in his prime. But then he thought about his late wife Bawako Sarutobi. It would feel wrong to him if he would ever find love again. It would make him feel like he was betraying her. Very well, I'll see to it that your things will be moved into the Uzumaki shrine, Hiruzen said before standing up from his chair. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go see the results of Mizuki's interrogation, Hiruzen explained as he left Naruto's apartment. Naruto stood there. All this information he had just learned finally hit him like a ton of bricks. Tears freely poured down from his eyes. While he was mad at Hiruzen, he couldn't bring himself to truly hate the old man. He was one of the few people in this village to ever show him kindness. Which reminded him he would have to go find Iruka later and apologize to him for his behavior earlier. Wiping the tears away from his eyes, Naruto felt something move over his shoulder. Glancing to the side, he noticed one of Yasaka's big bushy tails resting on his shoulder. Glancing at the older Kitsune woman standing next to him, she was giving him a smile. Her eyes were filled with kindness and warmth. Her smile made him feel at ease. Her massive bust made him feel hot on the inside. However, her tails, which were swaying back and forth, had an almost hypnotic effect on him. Gently reaching up and grabbing hold of her tail, it was incredibly soft, and the fur was very thick and warm. Naruto noticed a slight twitch in Yasaka's face as he ran his fingers through her thick bushy tail. Naruto, please be gentle, my tails are very sensitive, Yasaka said as a light blush appeared on her cheeks. Naruto instantly let go of her tail. Sorry, I didn't know, Naruto said while comically bowing to Yasaka, who giggled at his actions. There's no need for any of that, Naruto-kun, Yasaka said as she retracted her tail from Naruto. As the young Uzumaki couldn't help but marvel at the fact that her tail was capable of increasing its size. Although I believe it's time to retire. It's rather late and we have a big day tomorrow, Naruto-kun, Yasaka said as Naruto glanced at the clock before gaining a shocked expression. It's almost midnight, Naruto all but yelled as Yasaka nodded. You can take my bed, Yasaka, I'll sleep on the floor, Naruto said as Yasaka tilted her head to the side. There will be no need for any of that since you'll be sleeping with me from now on, she replied as Naruto nearly choked on his spit. What? Yasaka giggled at his reaction. Now there will be none of that. You'll be fine, plus you're far too young for us to do any of the perverted things floating around in your head. Although when you reach the right age, I wouldn't mind, Yasaka giggled as Naruto's face turned bright red. Now let's get some sleep, Yasaka said as her tail shot forward at a speed far greater than any genin or chunin could react to. It was lightning fast as Yasaka's tail wrapped around Naruto's hands, preventing him from weaving hand seals as she began to lead them towards Naruto's bedroom. Naruto had never been so uncomfortable but also so at peace, during any point in his short life. The young Uzumaki was used to sleeping alone in his either hot as hell or absolutely freezing apartment. He wasn't used to sleeping with someone, especially someone as gifted as Yasaka. Although her massive boobs served as an excellent pillow, they were so soft and firm and warm to the touch. But Naruto was too afraid to do anything, fearing that he may bring forth her righteous fury upon him. And another thing that bothered Naruto was the fact that Yasaka's breasts were pressed into his back. Which was another thing that was making it extremely uncomfortable for him to sleep. But on a positive note, her tails were extremely thick and fluffy as they had coiled around not only him but Yasaka herself, blanketing them in their absolute warmth and fluffiness. Slightly tilting his head to the side, Naruto caught a glimpse of his digital alarm clock on the nightstand. Its bright fluorescent red numbers displayed 2 a.m. This caused Naruto to groan slightly at the lack of sleep he has gotten so far, and he had to be at the Hokage's office first thing in the morning, which he wasn't too excited about. At this rate, I won't get any sleep at all, Naruto thought to himself as he glanced at Yasaka, who seemed to be in a deep sleep. Well, at least one of us is getting a full night's rest, Naruto sighed in thought. However, without warning, Naruto felt the world around him go dark as if his consciousness was being pulled somewhere else. 4x drip. Drip drop. Naruto awoke in what seemed to be a sewer. There were pipes in every wall and the floor was filled with water that was around ankle deep. He wandered through endless corridors wondering where the hell he was, until he came to a long dark hallway, and for some unknown reason he felt an urge to walk down it. After walking for what seemed to be a few minutes, while in all reality it was only 30 seconds at the most, Naruto came to a large room with a giant cage that had long thick vertical bars. The middle of the cage had a small piece of paper with the kanji for seal. The young Uzumaki looked deep within the cage and noticed a large shape in the back, and it seemed to be alive. Well, look at who we have here. A deep demonic voice boomed throughout the area. Naruto looked at the cage and saw two large red eyes staring at him. Yes, indeed it's the fake me. Naruto was absolutely terrified when he came face to face with the very beast that had attacked his home. However, Naruto also noticed another figure standing directly in front of the cage. It looked exactly like him, only with the difference being his doppelganger had red eyes with black sclera. Ignoring his own fear, Naruto attempted to calm his nerves as he tried to speak as calmly as possible. There is no point in wearing his idiot mask in here. The nine-tailed fox probably knew everything about him. So, why? You must be the Nine Tails. But I'm sure there's a reason why you called me here, as I assume this isn't a social call. And if it's not too much to ask, why is there a clone of me? The doppelganger seemed offended by this while the fox merely chuckled. This here is your darker half. He claims to be the real you, but that's far from the truth. The fox said, ignoring the doppelganger's cries of protest. You know, all of the negative emotions you suppressed over the years, he's the result. And there's a reason why I did call you here, and he's part of the reason. The Nine Tails stated while gesturing towards the doppelganger or dark Naruto. This is all really confusing, Naruto said before glancing at his doppelganger, who simply glared at him. So, you're saying he's my other half? That makes absolutely no sense, Naruto cried in confusion. Speak for yourself, idiot. You are basically the weaker light half while I'm the stronger dark half. I should be the one in control, not you. All you do is act like an idiot. But you managed to impress me slightly when you gave up your dream of becoming Hokage. The doppelganger said with a sinister grin. Now all we have to do is get you to burn this village down to the ground. Naruto glared at his darker half. No matter how bad our life may have been, I will never do that. Revenge will not accomplish anything except for leave us feeling empty. Plus, just because I don't want to become Hokage doesn't mean I won't stop training. I'll just become so strong that all of the villagers and shinobi will never want to bother me again. All right, enough both of you. The fox roared, silencing the two Narutos. As the two Narutos went silent, the fox breathed a sigh of relief as it stared at the original Naruto. Okay, brat. The reason why I called you here because you're embarrassing me. You represent me as my Jinchuriki. Therefore, I will be merging both you and your dark half together so that way you'll become sharper, stronger, faster, and smarter. Because the current you is an embarrassment to all Jinchuriki everywhere. The fox said harshly, causing Naruto to look down in despair as dark Naruto gave a look of betrayal. Oi! Wait a damn minute, can't we talk about this first? Yes, I agree with my much dumber and weaker half. This wasn't part of our deal. The fox gave a sinister grin. I don't remember making a deal with you. To me you're nothing more than that brat standing in front of me, just a slightly more intelligent and stronger version. But this way things may work out better for all of us. The fox said before raising his massive paws, hands and making a ram hand seal. Oh. Ooh. What fuck, ah. Both the light and dark halves of Naruto began to glow bright as they became two glowing humanoid shapes. They slammed together, creating a dense violet-colored humanoid shape. After the violet shroud vanished, it revealed a slightly taller and slightly more muscular Naruto who seemed more confused than anything else. So, this is who we originally were. Naruto thought aloud as he clenched his fists a few times. However, that wasn't the only difference Naruto noticed. Possibly one of the most important things he noticed was his chakra control was much better than it was before. There are probably a few other things that he acquired from this union, he just didn't know what they were yet. So how does it feel to be whole again? The fox stated, snapping Naruto out of his little funk. It feels nice, doesn't it? To have access to your full power. But don't let this little power boost go to your head, you're far from being the strongest. Even with only half of my power, I'm still the strongest. Everyone in this village, even your current Hokage and that vixen Yasaka. As he noticed something about the fox, something was different. I take it you want something in return for what you just did to me? Naruto asked as the fox nodded. Indeed, there is. I want my other half back. He is currently being held in the death god's stomach. And the mask of the Shinigami is in the very Uzumaki shrine that you'll be moving into later today. You don't have to get it back to me right away, but consider doing it soon. The fox demanded. Naruto found himself nodding towards the fox. Thanks, I guess. Naruto said, unsure of how to address the millennia-old fox in front of him. But I have one question for you. The fox merely raised an eyebrow but didn't reply, instead gave Naruto a nod. How the hell am I supposed to get your other half out of the death god without dying? Naruto all but yelled as the fox seemed to cringe at his loud yelling. First of all, stop yelling, it hurts my ears. Second, the fox paused for a moment to make sure Naruto was paying attention. Once you have possession of the mask, the death god can't harm you in any way, shape or form. All you need to do is find someone to sacrifice to free the contents of its stomach. The fox explained as Naruto turned green at the fact that he would have to sacrifice someone. Couldn't I just use a shadow clone instead? Naruto asked as the fox simply shrugged his shoulders as if it didn't care or just didn't know the answer. This caused Naruto's eye to twitch in annoyance, but he knew there was no point in arguing with possibly the most powerful being alive in the world, even knowing it was trapped in his stomach. Then Naruto found himself stopping in his tracks. Something was bugging him, so he decided to ask. Is Nine Tails your actual name, or is it just a title? This threw the fox through a loop. No one, and I mean no one, has ever asked if it had a name. The Nine Tails felt a small glimmer of respect beginning to form for its current Jinchuriki host. Sure, I have a name, but I'm not going to tell you, or anyone for that matter. You haven't earned the right to know my name. But I'll tell you what, if you manage to impress me, I might consider telling you. Now be gone. The fox stated as Naruto was forced out of his mindscape. Hey, he might be my favorite Jinchuriki host. So far, he's already better than Mito and Kushina by leaps and bounds. Now let's see how far you can go, Naruto Uzumaki. The fox said before laying back down and closing his eyes. 4x Naruto found himself being shaken awake, releasing a slight groan of displeasure. The young Uzumaki's eyes cracked open ever so slightly as he was going to unleash absolute hell on whoever had woken him up. As his eyes came into focus, he saw the culprit who had woken him up. And a small amount of blush appeared on his cheeks at the beautiful woman standing before him. Well, good morning, sleepyhead, Yasaka said in a very gentle, warm tone. I was afraid I was going to have to fill a cup up with water and dump it on you. The beautiful blonde-haired vixen said in an amused tone as Naruto's eye twitched. Naruto then took in her appearance. She was still wearing her shrine maiden attire, however, she wasn't wearing her hair ornament nor was she wearing her outer cloak. In fact, she made some alterations to her appearance that Naruto took notice of immediately. Namely, she cut her hair into a bob style reaching past her shoulders. Yasaka, you cut your hair? Naruto exclaimed as Yasaka's expression seemed to brighten at the fact that he noticed. Ah, you noticed, Yasaka said before doing a somewhat sexy pose for Naruto, causing the young Uzumaki to blush. Do you like it? She asked as Naruto nodded dumbly. I'm starting to like Naruto-kun a lot more. The fact that he noticed I cut my hair is a plus in my book, Yasaka thought to herself. But not to be rude, but I liked your old hairstyle as well, Naruto said offhandedly as Yasaka didn't take offense to it. She agreed with Naruto that she did quite like her old hair. The problem was maintaining it. When your hair is longer than your own height, it gets quite annoying to take care of. I'll keep that in mind, Naruto-kun. Now it's time to get up. I made you some breakfast, and after you've eaten and get washed up we'll be going to see Hiruzen-sama, Yasaka explained as she left Naruto's small bedroom, leaving the young Uzumaki so that he may get dressed in privacy. I get that you want to daydream about your future mate, but I think it's time you get ready. The sooner you get into the Uzumaki shrine, the sooner you can get my other half back. The nine-tailed fox called out from within Naruto's mindscape, causing the young Uzumaki to jump. 9 tails. Don't yell out loud, you stupid idiot. The last thing we need is either the vixen or worse the old Hokage, to find out that I'm in contact with you. So, for now on, talk to me through thought, so people don't think you're crazier than you already are. The fox replied in a crude manner, causing Naruto to flinch at the harshness in the fox's voice. Hey, I'm not crazy, nor am I an idiot, you giant furball, Naruto retorted as the fox snorted in amusement at the poor insult Naruto sent its way. Not even a second later, Yasaka came back into Naruto's room with a slightly concerned look on her face. Naruto-kun, are you alright? I heard you yell out 9 tails. Are you alright? Did something happen? Yasaka asked as Naruto was stuck in between a rock and a hard place. He didn't know what to do. Could he really lie to Yasaka and his Gigi, or would he just rat out the tailed beast within him? When Naruto didn't reply, Yasaka became more worried as she placed her hand on his head, using one of the many abilities Amaterasu had taught her before she took her place as the leader in Kyoto's Yukai faction. Kit, stop her before it's too late, the fox roared, but it was too late. 4x Yasaka found herself in a strange place. She was standing in ankle-deep water. In front of her was a massive cage and standing beside her was Naruto, who looked surprised. Glancing up, Yasaka's eyes widened as she saw two large predatory red eyes staring at her. And the power coming off the beast behind the cage was far beyond anything she had anticipated. The fox's power was greater than Susanoo and nearly rivaled Tsukuyomi in power, the second strongest Shinto god aside from Izanagi, Izanami, and the Koto Amatsukami. "See what you did, you useless brat," the fox growled at Naruto, who flinched as Yasaka glared at the caged beast in front of her. "Don't call him useless, you vile mangy beast. I know how your kind works, Yoko. You all hate humans and have a hunger for destruction. You don't care about anything nor anyone," Yasaka retorted, causing Naruto to smile slightly as the fox's eyes widened before narrowing dangerously. Before Yasaka could even continue her verbal assault, an ungodly amount of killer intent and bloodlust flooded the entirety of Naruto's mindscape. This caused Naruto to drop to the floor of his mindscape, barely able to even lift his head as Yasaka was on her hands and knees panting. "You have some nerve saying that to me, you useless vixen. You know nothing about me, neither one of you do, and don't assume that I'm one of those weak Yokos. I'm a tailed beast, a creature created completely of chakra. I'm not like you, I wasn't naturally born. I was created with the sole purpose of guiding humans to a brighter future. But those filthy hairless apes only saw me and my siblings as weapons." The fox growled as its eyes were glowing bright red with power. "I won't let you use Naruto," Yasaka began to say before the fox cut her off. "You assume that I want to control him, don't you?" the strongest tailed beast currently active asked as Yasaka nodded, causing the beast to chuckle in amusement. "I don't see any point in trying to control him. What would I gain from it? Nothing, that's what. The moment they all find out I'm controlling his body, they would kill him. And if he dies, I die, of course. I would reform after a decade or two, but I don't want to go through that," the fox explained coldly. "Then what is it you want?" Yasaka asked as the fox didn't answer. Instead, it simply closed his eyes and laid down. "You will find out soon enough. Oh, and one more thing. Don't tell that old Hokage about anything that happened here. Otherwise, it may cause more trouble for the brat and me. Now be gone, both of you," the fox ordered, forcing both Naruto and Yasaka out of the mindscape. "HMPH. The nerve of that damn vixen," the fox grumbled before it chuckled slightly. "She's definitely got fire in her. I can respect that. Perhaps when I get my other half back, I may give her a little present," the fox grumbled before drifting off to sleep. 4x. Both Naruto and Yasaka found themselves back in the young Uzumaki's small rundown apartment. "Naruto-kun, are you alright?" Yasaka asked in a concerned tone as she grabbed him by his shoulders. Naruto glanced at her before nodding. He had never experienced so much power in his life before. It was a little traumatic for the newly promoted genin. "Yeah, I think I'm alright," Naruto said before glancing at Yasaka, who was staring at him intently. "I think we should keep this in between me and you for now at least. Because for some reason I have a feeling with what the fox just said." Naruto began as Yasaka pulled Naruto into a hug, burying his head in between her large breasts. "I understand, Naruto, I won't tell a soul until you're ready," Yasaka said softly before she noticed Naruto's arms flailing around as she looked down and noticed that his head was buried in her massive bosom, immediately letting go of the young Uzumaki, who fell to the floor as he was huffing and puffing, trying to regain his breath. "Damn it, Yasaka, don't do that. You could have killed me with those gigantic boobs of yours," Naruto exclaimed as his face was covered in blush. Now don't get him wrong, Naruto loves the feeling of Yasaka's massive bosom. It was soft, warm and very firm. And this was something Yasaka took notice of as she smirked at the young Uzumaki, causing him to shiver. "Ufufufufu, does Naruto-kun like my large breasts?" Yasaka asked innocently, causing the young Uzumaki to blush even more. "Starting tomorrow I'm going to begin your training. And if you can impress me enough, I'll even let you play with my breasts if you want," Yasaka offered as Naruto's eyes widened. "Really?" Naruto said before he realized what he just said, quickly slapping his hand over his mouth as he groaned in embarrassment. Yasaka giggled before gently grabbing hold of both of his hands. "There's no need to be embarrassed, Naruto-kun. I don't mind, since you're not one of those twisted perverts who were hell-bent on knocking me up. Just so that they could have me birth them a powerful offspring," Yasaka growled. Naruto frowned at this. Why would anyone want to do that to Yasaka? She was such a nice fox lady. With pure determination ablaze in his eyes, Naruto stood up despite only wearing a t-shirt and boxers. "I won't allow anyone like that to lay a hand on you, Yasaka. That's a promise, and Naruto Uzumaki never goes back on his word," Naruto declared proudly in a strong voice as Yasaka stared at him with a look of amazement. Her shocked look turned into a warm smile as she kissed him on the forehead, taking the young Uzumaki by surprise. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," Yasaka said with a smile, all the while Naruto was sheepishly scratching the back of his head. 4x. 4x Hiruzen sat calmly behind his desk as he stared at both Yasaka and Naruto standing before him. Just like Naruto, he had noticed that Yasaka indeed cut her hair, and he complimented her on it, to which she thanked him. I do have some good news for you, Naruto-kun. It seems Mizuki indeed was attempting to steal the scroll of sealing, and he was using you as a way to get it. And we have Yasaka to thank for its safe return, Hiruzen said. Well, that certainly is good news, isn't it, Naruto-kun? Yasaka said with a smile as Naruto nodded wordlessly, as he couldn't help but feel hurt at the fact that one of his teachers used him for their own personal gain. But it showed him just how dangerous the shinobi world truly was, and he was going to have to adapt fast if he wanted to survive. Now I believe you said that there was a shrine that would fall under Naruto's possession? Where exactly is it? Yasaka asked. Ah, yes, Hiruzen said before reaching into his desk and pulling out a small map. He placed his finger on the bottom of the map, which was specifically the southeastern border of Konoha. The Uzumaki Shrine is quite a ways from the Hokage Mansion as well as the academy. But since not too many people live out there, you won't have to worry about people bothering you, Hiruzen said before pulling out a pair of keys from his desk before handing them to Yasaka. Yasaka notices that he had given her 3 pairs of keys. There's a key for both of you as well as a spare one in case something happens. Just remember, no one has lived there for quite a while, so it will need a little sprucing up, Hiruzen said as he had a feeling he was missing something. It seemed to escape his mind, but he had completely forgotten about not only the Shinigami masks but also the dozens upon dozens of ninjutsu and fuinjutsu scrolls locked within the walls of the Uzumaki Shrine. Thanks, Gigi, Naruto said with a big foxy grin as Hiruzen couldn't help but smile at the boy. While it pained him to know Naruto no longer wanted to become Hokage anymore. But the fact that Naruto was still loyal to Konoha was good enough for him. But that meant his successor might be his grandson Konohamaru. We truly appreciate this, Hiruzen-sama. Yasaka bowed to the aged Kage, who simply waved it off and offered her a smile. And with that, the blonde duo left the office, leaving Hiruzen by himself as he reached into the drawer, pulling out a familiar orange book and began to giggle pervertedly. Oh, Miko-chan, you naughty girl. 4x Yasaka and Naruto stood in front of the large Uzumaki shrine. Naruto stared at it with a look of awe, while Yasaka nodded her head, finding the shrine to her liking, reminding her of many of the shrines back in Kyoto. She did miss Kyoto, but she didn't miss being trapped in the city, and she felt freer here. Let's go in, Naruto-kun, she said as she lightly nudged him as the young Uzumaki complied and followed her into the shrine. The inside of the shrine was completely covered in dust and cobwebs everywhere. It was very dark. Yasaka raised her hand as an orb of ghostly blue flames flickered to life. Naruto couldn't help but marvel at the flames, as they seemed to be burning at a higher temperature than any flame he had ever seen before. Come along, Naruto, I don't want to lose you in here, Yasaka said in an amused tone as Naruto grumbled under his breath, which earned him a slap upside the head by one of Yasaka's tails. As the duo made their way to the shrine, Yasaka lit multiple lanterns with her foxfire. The azure flames illuminated the darkness, lifting the shadows, allowing Naruto to see better than he could before. Man, this place is dark and dusty, Naruto muttered quietly. I know, Naruto. But nothing a little spring cleaning won't fix, especially with your shadow clones. We'll be able to get this done hopefully today, Yasaka said as she heard Naruto whine, as she couldn't help but smirk at him. If you help me clean, I'll see if I can teach you something later today, Yasaka said as Naruto's eyes widened before releasing a whoop of joy. Seeing Naruto all excited made Yasaka giggle. He's such of a pure-hearted child. I really wish you would stay that way. But in this world, I don't think it would be possible. Nonetheless, I will cherish these moments for the rest of my existence, Yasaka thought before she frowned, knowing that Naruto wouldn't be able to live as long as she. It was one of the many drawbacks to being a supernatural entity with enhanced longevity. It was inevitable she was going to outlive Naruto whether she liked it or not. That was one thing Yasaka was indeed going to have to research. If there was a way to extend the lifespan of a human in this realm, especially if she was going to have kids with Naruto, she would want him to be able to live to see them grow and have their own kids. It was something that she didn't want to live through again. Her own father was human, and he died shortly after she turned 9. That event left her mother rather bitter and began this downward spiral, resulting in her leaving Kyoto and arriving here in the elemental nations. Oi, Yasaka, are you alright? Naruto asked in a concerned tone as Yasaka turned her golden orbs towards Naruto's blue ones. She had a forlorn look in her eyes but was quickly suppressed and replaced by a much warmer look. Yes. Is something the matter, Naruto-kun? Yasaka replied in a forced cheerful tone, which caused Naruto to frown as he stared at her with a concerned expression. No, it's just you looked really sad. Is everything alright? Naruto was genuinely concerned about his first true friend he made. Many would assume Naruto to be dense towards the opposite sex, which you wouldn't be wrong. But Naruto knew when someone was hurting deep down inside. Yasaka's smile dwindled as her eyes lost their warmth. Don't concern yourself with lil old me. I'll tell you one day, just not now. We have more pressing matters to deal with anyways. Yasaka said, sounding as if she didn't want to talk about whatever was bothering her. Naruto decided to drop the subject as he didn't want to upset her any more than she already was. Remember, brat, you need to find the Shinigami mask. The tailed beast sealed within Naruto called out. Naruto mentally nodded. He was going to help the Nine Tails. Because he truly wanted to learn more about the fox. It didn't seem like a mindless cold-blooded monster like everyone claimed it to be. It seemed to be a rather intelligent creature, and it could possibly teach him quite a bit if they could become more friendly towards one another. 4x. It was currently midnight and Naruto was walking through the shrine. He waited for Yasaka to fall asleep, who was currently using him as a body pillow. He used a combination of the shadow clone and replacement technique. That resulted in him switching places with his clone, who seemed to enjoy the feeling of Yasaka's gifted bosom. It seemed like hours Naruto was searching throughout the entire shrine, and yet he hadn't found anything that resembled a mask. He was holding one of the lanterns Yasaka had ignited with foxfire earlier. However, Naruto came to a stop when he stepped on a rather squeaky floorboard that seemed to shift under his weight. Setting down the lantern, the young Uzumaki lifted the plank as he noticed a ladder going down to another floor below the shrine. Naruto descended to the lower level of the shrine as he came to a large room full of not only scrolls but masks as well. Ignoring the scrolls, Naruto walked up to the wall of masks. Brat, see that mask in the middle? That's the one. Grab it. The fox ordered as Naruto reached up to grab one of the masks. No, not that one, the one above it, you idiot. The fox growled as Naruto gritted his teeth at the insult. Naruto felt the chill go down his spine as he held the mask in his hands. He could feel an immense presence coming off it. Naruto summoned forth another shadow clone as he handed the mask to the clone. Put it on, Naruto asked quietly and softly. The clone wordlessly placed the mask on his face. The clone began to scream in pain as a thick potent white aura surrounded the clone, as the feeling of dread and death filled the entire area. And what emerged from his clone would forever be embedded in Naruto's memories for the rest of his life. Floating directly behind his clone was a translucent, gaunt specter with a demonic visage. It was much larger than any human, possessing long, shaggy, white hair, from which two red horns protrude, as well as purple-colored skin. It was draped in a large white kimono and carries a set of prayer beads. The Shinigami had a large tanto in its mouth. Naruto could only stare at the spectral entity floating behind his clone. Just its ghoulish appearance alone was enough to terrify him down to his very soul. When the death god's cold, heartless eyes locked onto the young blonde, Naruto felt his very soul freeze over at the predatory gaze of the spirit. Deity. Why have you summoned me, mortal? I'm very busy. This had better be good otherwise. Your torture and punishment will be legendary and will be remembered for millennia to come. The Shinigami hissed. Naruto flinched at the Shinigami's voice, which was a horrid mockery of any being he had ever spoken to before. Even the Nine Tails' voice may have been demonic in nature, but at least it didn't scare him to this level. Oh no. The death god's voice, if you could even call it that, was cold, dark, foreboding, teeming with an eldritch power that caused both Naruto and the tailed beast within him. Both felt a shiver go down their collective spines with every sound it made. Speak, mortal. My patience is wearing thin. Naruto flinched. He was on the brink of having a panic attack. No, it was worse than that. Naruto could feel his sanity dwindling ever more, every time the Shinigami spoke to him. Finally, Naruto worked up the nerve to speak. IW. Want the S. So. Ol of my father Minato Namikaze a. ND the other half of the Nine Tails back, please. Naruto said softly as the death god glared at him. That's what you want. The demonic-looking spirit studied Naruto closely before its eyes widened. The Shinigami reached up and took the tanto out of his mouth, revealing dark-colored fangs. It was grinning at Naruto. So, you're that fool's son. Why should I even consider giving you his soul back? He did make a contract with me after all, and the other half of Kurama is out of the question. Unless you have something worth trading? The spectral entity said with a sickening grin. Oi! Don't call my dad a fool. And who the hell is Kurama? Naruto all but yelled as the Shinigami seemed to chuckle at Naruto's outburst. Oi! Stop laughing at me, goddammit. You're quite amusing, boy, I'll tell you that much. Kurama is the name of the fox sealed inside of you. Before Naruto could even come up with a retort, a familiar feminine voice called out to him. Naruto Uzumaki, what are you doing? Yasaka cried out in fear at the sight of the spectral ghoul floating behind one of Naruto's clones. Naruto glanced at Yasaka and flinched at the expression she had on her face. It was a mix of concern, fear and anger. Uzumaki. Did you just say Uzumaki? The Shinigami growled as he pinched the bridge of his nose. Of course, it had to be an Uzumaki. They're the only mortals crazy enough to summon me. The death god grumbled before focusing his gaze on Yasaka. He studied her for a moment. You look familiar to me, girl, what's your name? Yasaka was unsure how to respond to the spectral entity, but she decided to tell him the truth. My name is Yasaka. Yasaka paused for a moment as she studied the Shinigami's face carefully as its eyes began to widen. And I'm the daughter of Tamamo and Kensai Hoshigaru. Yasaka finished as the spectral entity dropped his arms by his side, staring at Yasaka with disbelief. Why, Yasaka, is that really you? Yasaka felt an uncomfortable feeling building up in her chest. How did this death god know who she was? More importantly, how was it possible that one of Izanami's Shinigami was here in this realm of all places? Just who are you anyway, and how do you know me? Yasaka asked, wanting to get to the bottom of this. Yasaka, why are you here? You're supposed to be in Kyoto with your mother and Amaterasu, the Shinigami said in a bewildered manner. Naruto remained quiet as he was curious as to how did the very being that split Kurama in half and took his father's soul know who Yasaka was. Enough with your games, just tell me who you are. Yasaka yelled. For the first time she actually yelled at the top of her lungs, startling Naruto. The death god released a sigh. There was no way of getting around this, was there? Yasaka, this is not going to be easy for you to hear. I'm your father, Kensai Hoshigaru. The Shinigami said as his form began to change from a large ghoulish spectral entity to a more human-sized spectral entity. The man in question was a handsome young man in his early to mid-30s, with brown eyes and dirty blonde hair. Yasaka's eyes widened as they began to tear up. This was indeed her father, someone she had missed very much. But how? Yasaka tried to form words, but she was overwhelmed with emotion. As she dropped to her knees as she started sobbing, Naruto wanted to comfort her, but the death god, well rather Kensai, was already there gently hugging his daughter. He was humming her a light tune that reminded Naruto of a lullaby. Yasaka, tell me, why are you here? Kensai asked softly. His voice was no longer dark and sinister, but rather soft, warm and very gentle. I'm here. Because. Yasaka began as memories of the past she had suppressed for years came rushing to the surface. After you died, mother. Yasaka stopped. I feel nothing but sorrow, despair, and anger coming from her, Naruto. Kurama said to Naruto through their mental link. Whatever happened in her past must have hurt her. I suggest remaining quiet and don't get involved. The fox advised as Naruto nodded. He knew he had no place in this conversation. Kensai didn't like where this was going. What did Tamamo do? She became extremely bitter and blamed me for your death. Yasaka yelled. Her eyes were now red and puffy. She was physically trembling. She stopped being the loving, caring mother I knew and would take out her frustrations on me. She would always berate me, and whenever she would train me. Yasaka didn't finish. She physically couldn't. It was far too painful for her. And when I became the proper age to take her place in Kyoto, she left, and I haven't seen her in nearly 50 years. Lady Amaterasu barely even checked in on me. The only Shinto gods who ever spent time with me was Inari and Susanoo. Yasaka finished, wiping the tears from her eyes. Kensai's once concerned expression turned sour. Why would she do that? That doesn't sound like Tamamo at all. And how could she blame you for my death? It wasn't your fault. You were nearly kidnapped by the old Satan faction. Kensai thought aloud while gently rubbing Yasaka's back. When we return, we'll have words with her and Amaterasu. No, I don't want to go back. Kyoto is nothing more than a prison to me. That's the reason why I came here. I couldn't take it anymore. Yasaka hissed, causing her father to flinch. You do know the Shinto gods will eventually find out that you're here. After all, this realm was created through a peace treaty in between the Hindu and Shinto gods as well as the Buddha. They have unlimited access to this realm, and if Amaterasu comes here, I won't be able to protect you. Kensai said to his daughter. I just don't want to see you get hurt. Yasaka nodded, knowing that that could be a possibility, but she didn't care about that at the moment. While she was happy to see her father again, she was also curious as to why Naruto would summon a death god in the first place. She turned her attention back to the young Uzumaki, who flinched under her glare. Now, Naruto, mind telling me why you would summon a death god of all beings? She asked in a sickly sweet tone. He wants the soul of his father and the other half of the nine-tailed fox inside of him back. And under normal circumstances, I would either take his soul in exchange or something equally as valuable. But seeing as you have taken a liking to this boy, I'll make an exception this time. Kensai said before glancing at Naruto. Listen here, boy, and listen well. If you ever make my daughter cry or hurt her in any way, shape or form, I will ensure that your soul is shredded down to its last particle. Am I understood? He said softly as Naruto nodded rather quickly. Good, Kensai said before vomiting up a large orb of ghostly blue flames with a dark red orb in the center of it. Here's your father's soul, as well as the other half of Kurama. Don't make me regret this. I won't, Kensai Hoshigaru. Naruto yelped as he bowed to the death god in front of him, who nodded before turning his attention back to his daughter. I'm sorry, my daughter, but I must go. If you intend on staying in this realm, I cannot remain here for too long. I'll visit when I can, and remember, I'll always love you no matter what. Kensai said before his body began to break down as it dissipated into wisps of ghostly white flames. Naruto's clone, who had been wearing the mask, exploded into a cloud of smoke as the Shinigami mask landed on the floor. Yasaka made her way over to the mask before picking it up and holding it into her bosom. I'll miss you, father, she whispered softly before she turned and glanced at Naruto with a frown on her face. Now Naruto, you have a lot of explaining to do, and if you dare lie, I will punish you accordingly, she said harshly. Naruto gulped as he told her everything that the Nine Tails or Kurama had told him to do. Kurama growled at being thrown under the bus, but he couldn't blame Naruto, especially with the fierce look Yasaka was wearing. I see, Yasaka said before running her fingers through her hair. I'm glad that you were honest with me, but you should have told me from the very beginning. We were lucky that the Shinigami you summoned happened to be my father. Well, I might as well move the soul of your father as well as the other half of Lord Kurama into you, Yasaka said as she snapped her fingers as Naruto's body was engulfed in bright golden light, as was the soul of his father. Yasaka began to chant as Naruto felt the soul of his father as well as the other half of Kurama being slowly drawn into him. It wasn't painful, it was just a very weird and disturbing feeling, and after the process was done, Naruto lost consciousness, as Yasaka walked over to him before using one of her tails to grab a hold of him and lift him up. Looks like I'm going to have to restrain you while we sleep, Yasaka said as her tail tightened around Naruto's body, as she was sure to pin his arms to his sides. 4x, a pair of bright blue eyes snapped open, as they belonged to a tall and well-built young man, who had spiky blonde hair with two bangs that framed his face. He was wearing a full-body blue suit and the standard Junin flat jacket. He was also wearing a white cape with red flames, and it had the kanji for 4th Hokage. Huh? Where am I? The newly conscious Minato asked no one in particular. It seems we're no longer sealed in the Shinigami's stomach but rather in your own son, the demonic voice of Kurama called out from behind Minato. Looking behind himself, Minato came face to face with a dark brown version of Kurama who was on his hunches. Indeed. It's been quite a while, other half, the bright orange Kurama called out from within the cage he was trapped in. All the while Naruto stood there gasping like a fish staring at his father. Dad? Naruto cried as he rushed towards his father. Minato was completely taken by surprise when Naruto embedded his fist deep within his father's stomach. Minato hunched forward with a pained expression on his face. Why did you do it? Why did you seal Kurama inside me? Do you have any idea how hard it's been? I was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 4 and lived on the street for nearly a month before. Naruto gripped his father tightly as he buried his face into his father's vest as he cried out his pain and frustrations. Minato couldn't help but stare at his son with sadness in his eyes. He could clearly see both the physical and psychological damage done to his son. It hurt him deep down inside, but he wished for a different outcome. Naruto, Minato called out softly as Naruto pulled his face away from his father's vest, staring him in the eyes. Minato frowned as he saw the pain in his son's eyes. How old are you? Minato asked, fighting the urge to flinch. Wiped his tears out of his eyes, Naruto answered. I'm 12, I'm going to be 13 in a few months. Minato's eyes widened in shock at how much time had passed by, and the guilt began to build up inside of him. He had missed that much of his son's life. Clenching his fists tightly, Minato released a sigh as he relaxed his fists. Almost 13, huh? Man, I must be the worst father in the world. Minato muttered to himself, though Naruto and the two Kuramas heard him loud and clear. No, you're wrong, Minato. Yin Kurama replied in his deep demonic voice, before turning his attention towards his other half's Jinchuriki. Don't blame yourself for the death of Kushina. It's not your fault, it's that masked man's fault. If it weren't for him, none of this would have ever happened, but things happen for a reason. The fact that your son undid the Reaper Death Seal and managed to get not only me, but you here must be the god's way of trying to make it up to you and me and your son. Yin Kurama finished. As much as I hated Kushina, my other half is right, Yang Kurama said before offering a grin. You sealed me inside of your son to use as a force to take down that masked bastard. And I believe it's about time me and my other half reunite with one another. If your brat is truly going to master my power, he might as well master it as a whole and not half. And in order to do that, you're going to have to remove this cage for us to fully bond. The bright orange fox grumbled. Minato then glanced at his son again with a frown. Naruto, how exactly did you undo the Reaper Death Seal? Minato asked as Naruto sheepishly scratched the back of his head as he told his father everything that happened. From him stealing the scroll of sealing to Yasaka arriving in this world, and even him arriving in the Uzumaki shrine and learning the truth from Hiruzen. Well, that certainly is a lot to take in, Minato said before walking past his son and arriving at the cage. Minato frowned. He didn't really want to open the cage, but both halves of the Nine Tails, or rather Kurama, were correct. They would have to bond with Naruto in order for him to use their power, similar to how Killer Bee the Eight Tails Jinchuriki was. Naruto, stand before me and lift your shirt, Minato commanded, or as Kushina would put it, Hokage mode. Naruto walked before his father and lifted his shirt. As Minato crouched down, the tips of his fingers began to glow blue. Minato placed his fingers against his son's stomach as the 8 trigram seal swirled open. The seal tag on the cage began to burn away as the cage doors flew open. Young Kurama made his way over to his other half as the two melded together, forming a much larger Kurama who was roughly 3 times bigger. "Ah, that's much better," the fox said while stretching his limbs. "Alright brat, starting tomorrow night we will practice using my chakra in here. And I believe it will be best if your father stayed here for a while so he can teach you a thing or two," the fox said before laying down and closing his eyes. "Are you really going to stay, Dad?" Naruto asked, hoping that his father would at least stay for a little while so he could get to know him. "Sure, son, I owe you that much," Minato said, while in all reality there was no way he could pay his son back for all the hell he went through. "Although I would like to meet this Yasaka person, she sounds very nice. Plus, I need to lay down some ground rules with her," Minato said as he hugged his son one more time before Naruto left the mindscape. This left Minato alone, as he wandered over to Kurama before leaning up against him and closing his eyes. 4x. It had been 6 days since Yasaka had reunited with her father, as did Naruto. It was quite interesting seeing his father take over one of his shadow clones and transform into himself. Although this left Yasaka quite surprised, although she gave Minato a piece of her mind. And Minato accepted the verbal lashing she gave him, and he told her not to do anything unsightly to his son, otherwise he would find a way to seal her away. And in those 6 days Naruto had made amazing progress. Not only had he mastered both the tree and water walking exercises, but he also began to learn magic from Yasaka, which for Naruto was like trying to pull teeth. Though in the end, Naruto was capable of finally forming a magic circle, allowing him to finally use magic. And finally, with Kurama, Naruto was finally able to use a small portion of the fox's chakra without his body being overloaded by the power. While Kurama was filtering out the hatred and malefic intent from his chakra, it was still too much for Naruto to fully utilize. Naruto was getting ready to go back to the academy for team placement. Naruto was both excited and nervous at the same time. He wondered who was going to be on his team. He was hoping it will be someone he could get along with, especially since his father hammered in how important teamwork was. He was only hoping that he wasn't placed on a team with either Sasuke or Sakura. Surprised Naruto wasn't a big fan of Sakura, to begin with. He only asked her out mainly because he was starving for attention. But with Kurama, his father, and Yasaka, he no longer needed to seek the pink net out any longer. Naruto was standing in front of a full-length mirror. He was currently wearing a loose-fitting black and orange kimono shirt with billowing, overlong sleeves, tied by a thick golden yellow Ono stylized belt, and a pair of black pants. In addition to his outfit, he was wearing black fingerless gloves and black calf-length shinobi sandals. He was currently adjusting his Konoha forehead protector, which he tied around his head. "You look really nice in your new outfit, Naruto-kun," Yasaka said as Naruto turned around to greet her, but stopped when he noticed she was also wearing a new outfit as well. Yasaka was wearing a golden, sleeveless kimono-style blouse with horizontal lines, tied with a red obi around her waist. Her blouse is closed quite low, revealing her sizable cleavage. She also was wearing a pair of skin-tight black pants and was sporting open-toed, strappy black sandals with high heels. One might be wondering where Yasaka and Naruto got the money to buy new outfits for themselves. It was quite simple. Minato told them where he hid most of his money. Funny thing is, Minato was paranoid and refused to put his money in the bank, much to Kushina's dismay. Minato had sealed quite a bit of money into several sealing scrolls that he buried quite deep in several different locations around Konoha. Since he had no use for the money since he was a soul, he didn't care if Yasaka and Naruto used it. "Hey, ah wow. Yasaka, you look really pretty," Naruto said with a light blush on his cheeks as Yasaka smiled at him. "Why thank you, Naruto-kun. Just to let you know, breakfast is on the table. I want to make sure you eat before you head off to the academy," Yasaka said as she leaned forward and gave Naruto a small kiss on the forehead. This left Naruto flustered as he felt his blood rushing to his cheeks. Naruto froze when he heard the perverted chuckling of Kurama and a groan of dismay from Minato. "Come on brat, man up and kiss her and grab a hold of those big jugs of hers. She already said she would let you play with them if you impressed her enough," Kurama said pervertedly, as Naruto could picture the perverted fox's brow wiggling. "Enough, Kurama. Yasaka already said she was only teasing him, and she was gonna hold off until he reached the age of 16. Minato yelled at the fox. It seems my suspicions were right, you were trying to corrupt my son. It just seems I was wrong about the type of corruption that you were going to employ. I thought you were going to try to control him through hatred, now I see you're trying to turn him into a pervert. Minato yelled. HMPH. And what's wrong with him being a pervert? Being a pervert is awesome, the strongest-tailed beast retorted. No, it is not. My idiotic sensei Jiraiya is living proof of that, especially with that perverted trash he calls a book. Minato argued back while the fox growled in response. How dare you refer to that divine literature in such a way? Fortunately for me, I was able to leak out a small amount of my power and take on human form despite me being sealed within Kushina. And I quickly became Lord Jiraiya's #1 customer. Kurama replied as Minato went silent, although by this point Naruto stopped listening to his father and Kurama. 4x. It didn't take Naruto long to make it from the Uzumaki shrine to the academy. He wordlessly made his way through the halls as he opened the door to his class. Naruto walked into the classroom and noticed that everyone was waiting for Iruka to arrive. Everyone turned their attention to him as he seemed a little put off by this. He just wanted to see whose team he would be on and maybe meet his sensei before heading back home and continuing his training. Naruto? What are you doing here? Naruto turned to the voice that he recognized as Shikamaru. Naruto looked at the lazy Nara, with the pineapple-shaped head. Naruto wordlessly pointed at his forehead protector that he was wearing on his head. You see, Lord Hokage became frustrated with me constantly failing year after year, so he decided to check my chakra levels. And lo and behold, I have too much chakra for my own good, so he taught me a higher level clone technique. And I was able to perform it with ease, so he gave me the rank of Genin. Naruto replied. Shikamaru stared at Naruto for a moment before releasing a sigh and muttering out troublesome before laying his head back down on the desk. Naruto was about to make his way to one of the empty seats in the back of the classroom when a very annoying voice shouted, Naruto baka. Naruto grumbled under his breath before turning his head in the direction of the very annoying voice. And it was indeed who he thought it was, as he couldn't help but curse. Sakura glared at him with both annoyance and disgust. What the hell are you doing here? This is for the people who graduated, you baka. Don't think a look will change anyone's opinion of you. She yelled out. So, do us all a favor and get the hell out of here, you useless baka. The annoying pink-haired girl that he used to chase after simply for attention. He could also hear his father growling in anger at what the girl had said to his precious son. If it wasn't for the fact that I was stuck in the seal or a soul, I would ensure that girl could never become a shinobi. The fourth Hokage growled softly. However, what Naruto did next shocked everyone in the room, including Sasuke and Shikamaru. Quick as lightning, Naruto grabbed Sakura by the front of her dress before lifting her off the floor. Let me tell you something, you useless, flatter than a 10-year-old boy, pink-haired bitch. I never liked you, to begin with. I only chased after you because I was starving for attention. And if you continue antagonizing me, I'll hurt you. Do you understand? Naruto said softly, which was uncharacteristic of the usual blonde hyperactive knucklehead. Sakura was scared out of her mind, but all she could do was nod her head, and after getting her wordless answer, Naruto dropped her to the floor before making his way to the back of the classroom. Ino made her way over to her best friend to check and see if she was all right. Sakura was not physically hurt, but her ego and pride were bruised as well as her feelings were hurt. But she would survive, though Naruto's threat really did scare her. The entire class had gone silent. Never in all of the students' minds did they think that Naruto would ever threaten Sakura. It was well known throughout the entire village that Naruto had a huge crush on her, and to hear that that crush was only because he was lonely and was starving for attention, that threw the entire class through a loop. With the exception of a dark blue-haired girl who had a glimmer of hope in her heart that she could finally confess her feelings to the blonde. Little did the shy girl know that Naruto already had his sights set on another girl, a much older and mature woman. Sasuke stared at Naruto with a look of interest. What had caused such a change in the blonde-haired dobi? It piqued his curiosity and he wanted to know, but he had an image to keep. The popular belief was that Sasuke was a cold-hearted emo, with a thirst for power. And one would be right to a certain extent. Sasuke was more afraid to open his heart to allow someone in. And who could blame him? He was mentally scarred by his older brother, and he was afraid of losing any friends or loved ones he would make. It was at this point that the door to the classroom opened to reveal the scarred Chunin. Iruka smiled at his class. However, he noticed that everyone was uncharacteristically quiet. He'd already been informed by the Hokage that Naruto was promoted to Genin, but he was expecting to see Naruto up in the front of the class, not in the back. When he glanced at Naruto, he noticed that the normally energetic and always smiling blonde seemed to have a more calm and cool expression on his face. And then Naruto's words hit him. And for the record, sensei, this wouldn't have happened if you would have helped me with the clone technique. But no, you're just like everyone else in this village. Iruka inwardly flinched. As you all know, from today on, you're all shinobi of Konoha, Iruka began as he sat behind his desk. For now, you're genin, the lowest ranking ninjas. But as long as you gain experience, you'll soon rise through the rankings in no time. So, for now, we're going to divide you into 3-man teams and then you'll meet your Junin sensei. Iruka finished as he could hear mumbling from everyone. He heard things like hoping to be with a friend or be with one they like. He couldn't help but sigh at that. Iruka simply shook his head. They should be more worried about survival than worrying about something as trivial as that. He thought with disappointment as he pulled out the list that was recently given to him by the Hokage. I'm going to be calling out your teams and I would like you to sit accordingly to them after I'm finished. Also, these teams were made and created by the Hokage himself. So, you have no say in the matter of these team placements. He told the students turned genin as they all became silent to hear the team pairings. When he saw that everyone had become completely quiet, he began. Team 1. He began as the first through 6 were only made up of civilian heritage. Iruka already knew most of them wouldn't pass the true test, but he knew that was the rite of passage so to speak. Next one is Team 7, they will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, he began, instantly gaining the blonde's attention who stared at his sensei with interest. Iruka secretly gave a brief look at his favorite blonde with his eyes and then continued. Sasuke Uchiha, he continued. Naruto's entire body twitched after hearing that. He glanced at the Uchiha who was indeed staring at him with a look of interest. Naruto put his head down on the desk hoping that the third member of his team wouldn't be as bad as the Uchiha. Soft whispers and mumbling could be heard from the many Sasuke fangirls. Iruka noticed Naruto's actions out of the corner of his eye and couldn't help but frown. Glancing at the list his frown only increased. This last member would either break apart Team 7 or bring them closer together. And the final member is Sakura Haruno. And your sensei is Kakashi Hitaki. Iruka finished quickly. Yes. Sakura released a squeal of joy as both Naruto and Sasuke banged their heads on their desks in unison. Iruka was now beginning to worry about Naruto. He had never acted like this before. He used to fawn over Sakura. And now he was acting like she was infected with some rare disease. Naruto didn't bother listening to the other team placements, as he was dealing with his own internal issues. Naruto made sure Sasuke was in the middle. He was the Berlin Wall that separated him from the pink-haired banshee. Come on Naruto, it won't be that bad. Minato said, trying to cheer his son up, which didn't work. Those who knew Naruto knew he wasn't a patient person, so when their new sensei Kakashi was an hour late, Naruto thought maybe he had something important he had to do before arriving. At hour 2 Naruto was slowly beginning to hate his new sensei. However, hour 3 Naruto was going to make his sensei's life a living nightmare. I don't get it, he was never like this before. What the hell would make Kakashi want to do this? Minato thought aloud. I don't know, and I don't care either. All I know is that silver-haired Cyclops Brad should feel grateful that I'm sealed right now. Otherwise, I would remove what makes him a man and turn him into a woman the hard way, Kurama said darkly. Minato frowned at this. Despite how late Kakashi was, he didn't think his former pupil deserved such a punishment. However, the former Hokage's frown only increased as he saw Naruto nodded in agreement with Kurama. I'm going to make this guy's life a living hell. Naruto replied as Kurama nodded in agreement while Minato could only shake his head. Sasuke, on the other hand, looked like he was ready to jump out of his skin. Who could blame him? Sakura had been asking him out non-stop while they waited for their sensei. Of course, she was complaining about their tardy sensei in between constantly asking Sasuke out on dates. Naruto felt Sasuke staring at him. The young Uzumaki met the Uchiha's stare. Sasuke mouthed out, "Help me," to which Naruto simply shook his head. It wasn't that he had anything against Sasuke personally, sure the Uchiha acted like a douche. Something must have happened to him during the Uchiha massacre to make him this way. Naruto just didn't know what. Maybe he would find out eventually if Sasuke would ever stop being so antisocial. Sasuke-kun, would you like to? Sakura never got the chance to finish her sentence as the young Uchiha finally snapped. No, I will never go on a date with you. You pathetic weak fangirl. Don't you get it? I don't like you. I want a woman who is strong, confidence. Someone who takes pride in their body and has a body that defines them as a woman. The only way I can tell that you're a woman is by looking at your face. You're flatter than an 10year old boy. Now do us all a favor and shut up. I don't mind being on a team with the Dobi over there, but I can't fucking stand you and your constant pestering. Sasuke roared with annoyance, shocking Naruto and causing Sakura to tear up. Sakura looked away from her crush. She could feel the sharp pain in her chest. It wasn't fair. Why wouldn't Sasuke like her? She knew she was flat, but she would eventually grow into her breasts. It would just take some time. Then she stared at Naruto. She felt the hatred in her building up. Yes, he had to be the reason why Sasuke didn't like her. He must have done something to her precious Sasuke-kun. Baka, she growled softly. Wow, I didn't know he had it in him. Kurama chuckled softly. Despite hating the entirety of the Uchiha clan, he couldn't help feel a tiny smidgen of respect for Sasuke. Minato nodded in agreement. Fangirls were the worst. They brought shame to all girls and women who took their job as kunoichi seriously. Naruto finally stood up from his desk and walked towards the front of the class, ignoring the stares he got from both of his teammates. What the hell do you think you're doing, Baka? Sakura hissed, only for Naruto to glare at her as his cerulean blue eyes turned blood red as his pupils slitted. As a small amount of bloodlust and killer intent began to fill the classroom, Sasuke had some difficulty withstanding it, while Sakura looked like she was about to faint. Don't tell me what to do. Naruto growled, showing off his razor-sharp canines as his whisker marks thickened and became more feral. Because if you insist on antagonizing me, I'll make good on my threat. Naruto's words were soft but dark and sinister. After seeing the pink-haired fangirl nod, Naruto's features returned to normal. But who are we kidding? Sakura would forget this threat along with Sasuke's hurtful words earlier soon enough. But Naruto couldn't help but inwardly grin. He was so glad Kurama taught him how to use his latent chakra to change his features and employ the fox's bloodlust and killer intent. Sasuke couldn't help but stare at Naruto with a great amount of interest as well as jealousy. Many believe Sasuke was the type of person to demand power and training from others. But this is far from the truth. If Sasuke couldn't get his power through hard training, he didn't want it. The young Uchiha had a dislike for easy and quick power. It wouldn't feel right to him. He would ask Naruto where he learned how to use such a power, and maybe the blonde could teach him how to use it. If Naruto was even capable of doing that. After Naruto had prepared a little surprise for Kakashi, the three newly promoted genin waited a little bit more before the door opened, revealing a tall man with gravity-defying silver hair and a mask covering most of his face, and his forehead protector was covering his right eye. He was wearing standard Konoha Junin attire. However, an eraser fell from the door and hit Kakashi on the head, causing Naruto to laugh. Sasuke stared at his sensei as if he was an idiot, and Sakura was tied in between berating Naruto or laughing at her sensei. I take it this is a punishment for me being late, Kakashi said while tossing the eraser away. My first impressions on the three of you are, I hate you all. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Kakashi said before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. 4x. Kakashi leaned up against the railing as he stared at his cute genin who were staring at him. So, who wants to start introductions? Kakashi said offhandedly. This instantly gained the clueless pink-haired fangirl's attention. What kind of introductions? Sakura asked. Truth be told, the pink-haired fangirl was only book smart, and outside of that, she was pretty much useless. Kakashi lazily shrugged his shoulders. Well, you know www. Kakashi dragged out the no. Likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams for the future. You know that kind of stuff, Kakashi said. Well, since you were so late, why don't you give us an example, sensei? Naruto hissed, obviously not in the mood for Kakashi's nonsense. You're not going to let that go, are you? Kakashi sighed as he stared at his cute little blonde genin. Very well, I'll go first. My name is Kakashi Hitaki. I have many likes and dislikes. As for my hobbies, well, aside from reading, I can't tell you what they are, because you're all too young. As for my dreams for the future, well, that's none of your business, Kakashi said before giving his cute and very annoyed genin an eye smile. You've got to be kidding me. All we learned about him was his name, Naruto, Kurama, Sasuke, and Sakura all said in unison while Minato remained silent. The former Kage was increasingly becoming worried about his former student. Alright, you can go first, Pinky, Kakashi said while pointing a finger at Sakura. Said Kunoichi. Fangirl glared at the masked man who couldn't help but grin at his cute little genin. I am Sakura Haruno, not Pinky, got it? Sakura yelled while Naruto and Sasuke picked at their injured eardrums while glaring at Kakashi. My favorite thing is, well, it's not a thing, it's a person. A boy. And that boy is. Let's move on to my dream, Sakura stated while squealing quite loudly. Kakashi deadpanned at Sakura while simultaneously sweat dropping. Sasuke moved away from the pink net, while Naruto made a gagging noise. Sakura then scowled. And what I hate is, Naruto. Naruto lazily glanced at the useless pink-haired fangirl before sneering. Oh, your words hurt me so much, Naruto growled. Kakashi glanced at Naruto before shaking his head in disappointment. It sounds like this generation of girls are more interested in love than ninjutsu. Sighing, Kakashi pointed at Sasuke. You're up next, Ducky. Right on cue, Sasuke glared at his annoying sensei. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I enjoy certain things not a lot, and there certainly are a lot of things I hate, and unfortunately, I'm stuck with one of them, Sasuke said while glancing at Sakura, who didn't even notice. It seems pointless to talk about dreams, That's just a silly word. But what I do have is an ambition. I plan to restore my clan. And there is someone I have sworn to kill. Sasuke finished with his eyes radiating with pure hatred. He is so cool, Sakura thought. I need to figure out what happened during the Uchiha massacre to make him like this. Naruto thought, genuinely concerned about his new teammate. I suspected as much. Damn Itachi, you certainly did a number on your brother, Kakashi thought. Kakashi then turned his attention to Naruto. The Junin seemed confused. Naruto was supposed to be loud and energetic, not calm and quiet. And if he read the reports correctly, he was supposed to have a huge crush on Sakura, but instead, he seemed to genuinely hate her. Alright, you're up, Blondie. Naruto simply glanced at his new sensei before grinning like a loon. Alright, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. And what I like is my current caretaker Yasaka, my friend Kurama and my fath mentor. Naruto stopped himself from slipping up and mentioning his father Minato. Sasuke and Sakura didn't take notice, but Kakashi did as he narrowed his one visible eye. I also like spending time with old man Hokage, eating ramen, training, and gardening, Naruto said. So, he knows about Minato-sensei. He wasn't supposed to find out until he was older. I'm going to have to speak to Lord Hokage about this. Kakashi thought in a serious manner. What I dislike is people who judge others without getting to know them, and I hate people who are unnecessarily loud, ignorant, and mean for no damn reason. Naruto said while glaring at Sakura, who glared right back at him. My dream was originally to become Hokage. However, that has changed. Instead, I simply want to become the most powerful shinobi who has ever lived and make my parents and Yasaka proud. Naruto said with a genuine smile. Parents? You're an orphan. Your parents probably were so disgusted with you they left you here and just ran away. Your mother was probably a whore, and your father was a drunk, no one important, Sakura said with a cruel grin. Sasuke looked at the bane of his existence with a look of shock and anger. Kakashi's whole frame twitched as he glared at the pink-haired fangirl. How dare this girl say something about Kushina and Minato-sensei? However, before Kakashi could even say a single word, Naruto's body exploded with nothing but killer intent and bloodlust, but it was worse than before. You must have a death wish, girl. If you ever, and I mean ever, speak about the kid's parents like that ever again, I will maul you, rip out your innards and hang you by your entrails. Am I understood, you stupid hairless howler monkey? Kurama roared through Naruto. Normally Kurama would never switch places with Naruto, however, it would be better if he switched with Naruto rather than letting Minato do it or Naruto remain in control. Because there was no telling what either of the blondes would do. Kakashi couldn't believe what just happened. The nine-tailed fox just took over Naruto to simply yell at Sakura. Why would Naruto let that beast take control of his body? Now the lazy and somewhat insane Junin really had to discuss a few things with Hiruzen. Kakashi then glanced at Sakura and noticed that she had fainted as well as started foaming at the mouth. Glancing at Sasuke, the young Uchiha appeared to be frightened but was able to keep his composure somewhat. Kakashi then looked at Naruto, noticing his features were back to normal, but he seemed distant as if he wasn't even there. Ignoring the fear that he once held, Kakashi pulled out some smelling salts and placed them under Sakura's nose, waking her up. The silver-haired Junin then clapped his hands together. Alright, now the introductions are over with. Formal training begins tomorrow. Kakashi stated. Our first mission involves only the four of us, the members of Team 7. Naruto would have been bouncing up and down with joy at this, but since fusing with his inner darkness, he had become much more focused and able to understand and perceive information far better. A survival exercise, was all Kakashi said with a bored expression on his face. Survival exercise? Sakura questioned, tilting her head to the side in confusion. But why would that be a mission? Our days in the academy were filled with survival training. That may be true, but you'll have to survive, against me. It won't be your typical practice. Well then, what kind of practice are we talking about? Naruto said calmly, because he had a feeling it would be the bell test his father told him about. Are we talking about teamwork exercises, or are you going to simply try to kill us and see which one of us survives? Naruto said as Sakura paled. Sasuke shifted uncomfortably while Kakashi simply stared at the young Uzumaki with a look of surprise. Goodness no! Kakashi yelled. There went his element of surprise to scare them, or at least the young Uzumaki. How in the name of the almighty log does he know that? Don't tell me he already knows about the bell test? Kakashi thought as he narrowed his eye. Hey! It seems like you spooked him. Kurama chuckled darkly while Minato remained quiet, still fuming over what the pink-haired girl said about his son. The practice exercise is meant to weed out the weak. Out of the 27 graduates of the academy, only 9 will actually be accepted as genin. The other 18 must go back for more training. Naruto's eye twitched in annoyance. A single bead of sweat rolled down Sasuke's forehead. Sakura was having a nervous breakdown. I can't fail, that means I won't be with Sasuke anymore. This is a mission of love and I will not fail, Sakura thought. Kakashi's eyes smiled at his cute lil genin. Alright. My little rugrats, meet me at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, and I suggest you don't eat breakfast, otherwise, you may throw up, Kakashi said before vanishing into a swirl of leaves. Naruto was the first one to leave as he simply jumped off the top of the academy building and began making his way to the Uzumaki shrine. Sasuke was the second to leave as he didn't want to be pestered by the bane of his existence anymore. Sakura was far too distracted by everything Kakashi said to notice that she was the last one there. 4x Kakashi was currently standing outside of the Hokage's office. He was about to knock on the door when he heard two voices. The first voice was obviously the voice of the third Hokage, however, the second voice was the voice of a woman. I'm glad that you've told me this, Yasaka. The fact that Naruto-kun has made this much progress under your watchful eye, as well as gaining some ground with the Nine Tails as well, Hiruzen said in a proud tone. Indeed, Hiruzen-sama. The woman's voice spoke. Kakashi assumed that this was Yasaka. Naruto-kun has made tremendous progress, especially with the Nine Tails. And he's already mastered the tree walking and water walking exercises, so his chakra control should be better than before. Right now, I need to focus on his atrocious taijutsu. I'm glad to hear it. Naruto-kun will go further than anyone else in this current generation. And I'm not saying that because of him being the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. I say that because he has nearly limitless potential, and it makes me quite annoyed and rather angry that no one would take the time to realize this. And I hope with Kakashi, the both of you will be able to pull it out of him, Hiruzen said. I as well, Hiruzen-sama. Although from what I've read about Hitaki-san and his teaching methods, I don't have much faith in him to begin with. And if he does anything to harm Naruto in any way, shape or form, I will burn him to ash. Yasaka hissed as Kakashi flinched at the harshness of her tone. Pardon me, Hiruzen-sama. It appears we have someone eavesdropping on our conversation, Yasaka stated as Kakashi's eyes widened. As he was about to turn tail and run, the door opened as a delicate hand gripped his shoulder. Leaving so soon, Hitaki-san? Yasaka said in a sickly sweet tone as she dragged the silver-haired scarecrow into the Hokage's office. The most beautiful woman, said Junin, had ever set his sights on. The glare he was getting from Hiruzen kept him from fantasizing about the woman in front of him. Kakashi. Hiruzen said clearly and softly. Is there a reason why you were eavesdropping on our conversation? I spit it out, Kakashi. My patience is wearing thin. I came to report that Naruto willingly switched with the Nine Tails. It happened when Sakura berated Minato-sensei and Kushina. Also, Naruto seems to know that he's Minato-sensei's son, Kakashi said in a shaky tone. I'm already well aware of both of those things, Kakashi. You have nothing to worry about, you're dismissed. Hiruzen said as Kakashi tried to say another thing when a single glare from Yasaka shut him up. With that, Kakashi left the office more confused than he was before. He was Naruto-sensei, shouldn't he be informed about this? 4x Naruto was currently sitting in the large bath that Yasaka had installed into the Uzumaki shrine. He had his back turned to Yasaka, who was currently in the corner getting washed up before getting in the bath herself. Naruto-kun, is everything alright? You seem a bit out of it, Yasaka asked. Who had finished washing up as she had a towel wrapped around her body which left little to the imagination. Naruto blushed as he looked away before he began to speak. It's just that. My new sensei Kakashi. Naruto began as Yasaka scowled at the name of the silver-haired Junin. I don't know what to think of him. He doesn't seem to take anything seriously and his attitude is seriously getting on my nerves. And the fact that he was 3 hours late today. Yasaka twitched after hearing that Kakashi was 3 hours late. Oh, she was definitely going to burn him, very slowly. How unprofessional. He's supposed to set an example for you and the rest of your teammates. Perhaps I should come with you tomorrow so I can teach him a lesson. Yasaka growled softly as Naruto shook his head. I appreciate the offer, Yasaka, but no, I need to deal with this on my own. Plus he said we are to be at the training field at 5 a.m., and he suggested that we don't eat breakfast. Naruto said as he could feel Yasaka's spiritual power becoming more agitated by the second. If that's the case, I'll be sure to make you a big breakfast tomorrow, and you are going to the training field at 8:30. Yasaka said with a sweet smile on her face that caused Naruto to shiver. He knew better than to argue with her when she was like this. 4x Kurama couldn't help but stare at Minato ever since that pink-haired banshee berated Naruto and called Kushina a whore and Minato a drunk. The former Kage had been very quiet and hadn't even said a word since then, and to the average person, they probably could tell that Minato was angry, but Kurama with his negative emotion sensing could tell that Minato was not just angry. It was much more than that. The ancient fox could feel not only anger but sorrow and grief, as well as self-loathing coming from Minato. Despite how much Kurama hated Minato for not only splitting him in half but sealing him again, the strongest tailed beast was willing to swallow his pride and work with Minato and tolerate him. Oi! Minato, say something. Stop brooding. Kurama growled as Minato looked up at the fox. His blue eyes had sadness and fury dancing within them. What is it? Kurama. Stop acting like that Uchiha brat. You never acted like this before and no one's ever made you act like this, not even Kushina? The fox grumbled. You heard what the Haruno girl said. She was right. Minato said softly as Kurama slammed his fist into the floor, causing Minato to jump. No, she was wrong, Minato. You didn't leave Naruto behind because you wanted to, you had no choice. You are not a drunk, nor is Kushina a whore. As much as I hate the both of you, what that pink-haired brat said was completely incorrect. Plus listening to her voice irritates me. So, stop beating yourself up over something you didn't even do. And if you refuse to stop brooding, I will crush and eat you. Kurama declared before laying his chin down on the backs of his hands. Minato stared at the fox for a moment as he released a sigh. If only it were that easy. The guilt I hold inside me keeps on growing, not just for Naruto but Kakashi as well. And I can't forget about poor Hiruzen. My death forced him to take the position of Hokage again. Not only that, Konoha has become much more corrupt. The civilian council pretty much rules over the entire village, and I can't forget about Danzo and the other two leaf elders. I have a feeling they're hiding something big. Minato thought before sitting down and leaning up against Kurama again. Unbeknownst to Minato, a pair of violet eyes were staring at him from the darkness of the mindscape. Minato-kun. A soft feminine voice, whispering as the figure walked towards the now sleeping blonde. The figure had long beautiful red hair. She leaned forward before placing a small kiss on Minato's forehead, before giving the large fox a strange glance before walking back into the darkness. 4x. Sasuke sat leaning up against a tree waiting for his other teammate and Kakashi to arrive. He glanced at the bane of his existence, Sakura, who was laying on the ground groaning about being tired and hungry. Shaking his head in disappointment, the pink-haired fangirl would get herself killed during their first real mission. This is the first step. My first step to redeeming the Uchiha clan and killing you, Itachi. Sasuke thought. A few more minutes passed before Kakashi appeared in front of Sasuke and Sakura. Hello, my cute lil genin. Sorry, I'm late. I got arrested by accident and it took a while to clear my name. Kakashi said with his famous eye smile. There was a pregnant pause as Sasuke stared at Kakashi with a deadpan expression. However, the silence was soon interrupted by the annoying voice of Sakura Haruno. You're late, which caused both Kakashi and Sasuke to flinch at the volume and sharpness in her voice. Come on, Sakura-chan, that's no way to treat your super awesome sensei, is it? Kakashi said while picking at his damaged eardrums. Man, I feel bad whoever ends up marrying her. Plus, I'm sure the other villages and the dead could hear her. Kakashi thought before he realized something was missing. Where's Naruto? Kakashi asked, not seeing the blonde anywhere. Sasuke was about to speak when the pink-haired howler monkey beat him to it. Who cares? We don't need him anyways. Sakura hissed as she began grumbling curses towards the blonde Uzumaki. Kakashi narrowed his eyes. Ma, that's no way to treat your teammate. Kakashi tried to defuse the situation. That thing is not my teammate, and I'll never see him as my teammate. I hope he dies during our first real mission. Sakura yelled, causing not just Sasuke but Kakashi's eyes to widen. Sakura. Kakashi yelled, startling her as well as Sasuke. If I hear one more disrespectful word towards your teammate, I'll have you terminated. And I'm sure I can easily find a replacement for you. Kakashi threatened, causing Sakura's eyes to widen with fear while Sasuke's eyes were filled with hope. A half an hour passed by. Kakashi was growing ever more impatient as he was beginning to tap his foot against the ground. Sasuke was beginning to wonder if something had happened to Naruto, as the change in the blonde's behavior was quite strange, to say the least. Naruto landed in training field number 7 as he located his team, who all looked rather irritated, especially Kakashi. This caused Naruto to inwardly smirk. It seemed following Yasaka's advice worked. Yo, sorry I'm late, I broke my alarm clock, so I had to give it a proper burial. Naruto said while grinning like a loon. This caused the rest of his teammates as well as Sensei to twitch. Alright, my cute little genin rookies. Gather around and we will start today's test. Kakashi spoke as the 3 genin approached him. He looked at every single one individually, trying to make out their body language to see how they were taking this. Sometimes you can tell how good someone was just by their body language, but then again, if manipulated properly, could be an alternate deceitful weapon. Sasuke looked bored, but he was twitching with excitement, obviously because he wanted to show off how good he was. Naruto had a blank look on his face which was causing Kakashi to become more concerned and unnerved around the young blonde. Sakura was looking nervous, which was the obvious expression he was looking for. Kakashi reached into his ninja pouch and pulled out 2 bells and dangled them in front of his 3 genin as he watched both Sasuke and Sakura puzzled expressions with amusement. Naruto, on the other hand, gained a knowing look as he mentally prepared himself for what was coming next. Kakashi's eyes smiled at his 3 precious students. All right, the first 2 to get the bells passes the test, the other one will be sent back to the academy and repeat the year again. The remaining 2 will stay in my team and become my subordinates. You have until noon to get them. If none of you succeed in getting the bells, you will all return to the academy. All force is acceptable. Use whatever jutsu, ploys, deceptive needs you can use to get these bells. Now go. Kakashi spoke before they all vanished into the tree lines, completely out of sight. At least they know decent stealth, but I can still sense Sasuke's chakra signature. I can't even detect Naruto. He must have perfect chakra control in order to do that. I heard Sakura has nearly perfect chakra control, so she should have her chakra concealed as well. I'm not exactly impressed with you, Sasuke. It seems you are the weakest link when it comes to stealth. Kakashi mused as he pulled out his handy-dandy orange book from his ninja pouch. 4x. Naruto sat up on one of the many various tree branches in the lotus position. It seems like he's just setting us up to fail. Like he doesn't even want to have a genin team. Naruto thought in an annoyed manner. As he observed Kakashi reading what Kurama referred to as the holy book to all perverts, Icha. I wouldn't be surprised his emotions contradict everything he says. Kurama said in a low growl. He's far too mentally unstable to be in charge of a genin squad. What was Hiruzen thinking letting him assume the role of a Junin squad leader? Minato added his 2 cents into the conversation. He's too emotionally damaged. I can see it in his eyes and hear it in his voice. He still blames himself for the death of Obito, Rin, me and Kushina. He should have been made an academy instructor instead. Naruto mentally sighed. He agreed with both Kurama and his father. Regardless of what his mental status is, I still have to pass this test. I assume this is a teamwork-based test, so I am going to have to get Sasuke and, dare I say it, Sakura to help me. Naruto thought before making a cross-hand seal. Shadow clone technique. Naruto all but whispered as 2 clones came into life next to him. You 2 know what to do. Now go. Naruto ordered as his 2 clones nodded and disappeared from sight. Naruto's first clone landed gently in the tree. Sasuke was crouched and startling the Uchiha slightly. Sasuke, I need to talk to you, it's about the test. Sasuke glanced at the clone, not showing any anger but rather showing a slight amount of annoyance, but nodded, nonetheless. What is it? I'm trying to figure out an attack strategy, on how to get those bells. Sasuke grumbled as the clone grinned with glee. I figured out the secret meaning of this test, it's teamwork. The clone said as Sasuke stared at him impatiently. Why would the secret meaning of this test be teamwork? He told us that. Sasuke began before he froze. I've never heard of any 3-man cells before, it's always 4. Sasuke thought to himself for a moment before verbalizing his discovery. He's just trying to throw us off, isn't he? It's almost like he is setting us up to fail. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I looked up some information on him, our sensei that is. He's never passed a single team. If the team is unable to understand teamwork, he'll fail them right then and there. We need to come up with an attack strategy. The clone said as Sasuke grumbled but nodded in agreement. Naruto's second clone arrived near Sakura's location. Haruno. I know the meaning behind this test, it's teamwork, we have to work together. Naruto spoke in the friendliest voice he can muster. Sakura growled at him. I don't need help from some baka who is trying to act cool. All I need is my Sasuke-kun. And we will pass this test and you'll go back to the academy where you belong. Naruto's second clone balled his fists tightly as his knuckles turned white. This brain-dead fangirl was going to get herself killed or worse, cause them to fail. At least Sasuke was willing to give teamwork a try, but this pink-haired howler monkey was far too frustrating to work with. Naruto would almost rather go back to the academy than deal with her. This clone also dispelled. The memories from his second clone came rushing back, causing Naruto to rub his forehead in frustration. God damn that useless girl. How am I supposed to work with her? Naruto mentally yelled in frustration. 4x. After hearing the conversation between Naruto's 2 clones and Sasuke and Sakura, Kakashi was pleasantly surprised that Sasuke agreed to work with Naruto. But he was disappointed in Sakura for not only belittling Naruto but outright refusing his help. Maybe choosing her was not the best choice. Perhaps there are some other genin who would be willing to work with Naruto and Sasuke if things don't work out. Kakashi thought while turning a page in his book while mentally sighing. 4x. The real Naruto and Sasuke had finally come up with a strategy to take on Kakashi, or the bare minimum distract him long enough for either one of them to get the bells. Satisfied with their work, they were interrupted by a loud banshee-like scream that was echoing throughout the forest. Wow, Kakashi certainly works fast. He already got that useless fangirl already. Naruto thought as Sasuke simply had a deadpan expression. Alright, let's get this over with, Naruto. Sasuke said in an emotionless tone, which didn't fool Naruto at all. He could tell Sasuke was grateful. Because if I fail because of you, I'll kill you. Sasuke said as Naruto chuckled nervously. Oi, Kit, can you hear me? Kurama called out softly, well, softly to the fox. To anyone else it sounded like he was yelling. What is it, furball? Naruto replied as he gained a growl in response and a nervous chuckle from his father. You have some nerve talking to me like that, brat. And here I was going to offer you some help, but you can forget it now. Kurama growled in annoyance. The ancient Kitsune was planning on giving Naruto some of his chakra to see just how powerful Naruto would be compared to a Junin-level shinobi. Don't worry about him, Naruto. He's just worried about you, and he wanted to give you some of his chakra. But it seems you hurt his feelings with your new nickname. Minato laughed softly. Well, thanks for the offer, Kurama, but I want to do this with my own strength. I don't want to rely on your power too much, because if I do, I'll never grow stronger. But there will come a point in time when I will have to use your power. Plus, I prefer only using it in training sessions where not too many people can get hurt. Naruto said as Kurama gave a small grin, as did Minato. And unknowingly to everyone, a third person within Naruto's mind also smiled at the young blonde's resolve. Oi, Naruto, are you there? Sasuke asked as he waved his hand in front of Naruto's face. This caused Naruto to snap out of his trance as he blinked owl-like at Sasuke. Naruto gave a big cheesy grin towards Sasuke, who scowled at the young Uzumaki. Sorry, I was just thinking. You know this is kind of a big deal right now. You know this decides our fate, whether we become shinobi or not. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. There was no way I could have figured that out on my own. What would I do without you? How may I repay thee? Sasuke said sarcastically, causing Naruto's eye to twitch. However, before Naruto even got a chance to retort, a hand erupted from the ground, grabbing his ankle. Naruto looked down as the hand dragged him further into the ground until he was neck deep in the earth. I must say, Naruto, you surprised me. It seems everyone has been underestimating you this entire time, but I won't give you a second chance to surprise me as you did with Sasuke. Kakashi said, crouching in front of Naruto before standing up to face Sasuke. Both Naruto and Sasuke had the same thought in mind. I didn't even sense him. So, this is the power of a Junin? The two thought in unison while both Kurama and Minato shook their heads. I must say, listening in on your little strategy was quite interesting. It would have been rather tricky if you were able to combine both your wind and fire release together. But alas, my cute little genin, it wasn't meant to be. But I must say, the two of you were able to put your differences aside and work together and figure out the secret meaning of this training exercise. Kakashi said while pulling out his orange book. Sasuke growled at Kakashi before weaving through several hand seals. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Sasuke declared as he released a fireball 3 times his own size at Kakashi. Kakashi's eyes widened in surprise before he pocketed his book and was prepared to use the replacement technique, only for something to grab him from behind. Looking over his shoulder, Kakashi saw Naruto holding him. You caught me off guard, sensei. You're good, but not as good as you used to be, Naruto said as Kakashi's eyes widened before narrowing. The fireball hit both of them head-on, resulting in a fiery explosion that threw chunks of earth and dust and debris in all different directions. Sasuke was lightly panting as he used a lot more chakra than he initially wanted to in his fire release jutsu. A blur appeared beside him as he glanced over and saw Naruto standing there without a scratch on him. It's a good thing I didn't dispel the clone I sent to find you. I had a feeling he would pull something like this, Naruto said before placing his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, transferring a fraction of Kurama's purified chakra into Sasuke. If you had a feeling he was going to do something like this, why didn't you tell me? And what's stopping him from doing it again? And thanks for the extra chakra, by the way. Although I have no idea how you are capable of doing that, you're going to have to tell me later, Sasuke grumbled. He probably won't pull the same trick twice, Naruto replied as he was staring intently at the smoldering crater where Kakashi once was. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw a smoldering log in the center of the crater. Damn it, he got away. He could be anywhere, Naruto said. Kakashi was observing both Naruto and Sasuke from afar. Those two are doing a lot better than I originally thought. I'm curious to see what they're truly capable of, Kakashi thought before coming out from the tree he was hiding behind. Yo, Kakashi said in a lazy manner while waving at his two students. Both Naruto and Sasuke quickly turned around as they came face to face with Kakashi. Naruto glanced at Sasuke, as their eyes met as they nodded. Naruto performed his famous cross-hand seal. Shadow clone technique. Close to a dozen duplicates of Naruto appeared in front of the real one and Sasuke. Naruto grabbed Sasuke before throwing a smoke bomb on the ground. A thick cloud of grayish-purplish smoke filled the area. Kakashi covered his only uncovered eye. When he opened his eyes, all he saw was the clones of Naruto as they charged forward. A diversion? I thought Naruto was the dead last of the academy, and yet he's displaying Naichunin levels of planning. Kakashi thought as he was rather impressed with the young blonde. Kakashi weaved through several hand seals. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. Kakashi said as a large dragon made from water rose from the lake beside him as it came forward and crashed into all of Naruto's clones, annihilating them instantly. Kakashi released a slight sigh. He could have easily taken all of the clones with taijutsu, but he was on a timed schedule. Now where are my two remaining cute genin at? Kakashi thought aloud before he heard footsteps coming from behind him. Turning his head, he saw another clone of Naruto. However, what the clone did next caused Kakashi to freeze in place. The one remaining clone of Naruto made a ram hand seal. Transformation technique. A large cloud of white smoke cloaked the clone, and what emerged shocked Kakashi down to his core. What stood before the silver-haired scarecrow was an attractive young woman with a curvy body and large breasts. Her hair was tied into pigtails, and she had clouds of white smoke covering her breasts and crotch area. "Oh! Kakashi-sensei," Naruto said in a seductive manner as she ran towards Kakashi, opening her arms in an inviting manner. Sadly, Kakashi's senses were completely dull from seeing the attractive naked woman in front of him. He was unable to register the danger signals going off in his brain, as he was unable to see the glint in Naruto's eyes. After firmly wrapping her arms around Kakashi, Naruto gave Kakashi a smirk that sent chills down his spine. "I have one thing I want to say to you, sensei," she said in an extremely cute tone. Kakashi swallowed the lump in his throat as he answered. "And what would that be?" Kakashi said in an equally nervous and aroused tone. Naruto simply giggled before answering Kakashi. "Boom," she said as Kakashi's eyes widened in horror as the clone exploded. From a distance, both Naruto and Sasuke were watching. Sasuke slowly turned his head to the side as he gave Naruto a deadpan expression. "You're evil," Sasuke said to Naruto as the blonde shrugged his shoulders in response. But Naruto couldn't help but keep the shit-eating grin off his face. Hiding behind several trees away from Naruto and Sasuke, Kakashi was as pale as a ghost. He had beads of sweat traveling down not only his forehead but his face and every inch of his body. That was way too close. I have a feeling they're really trying to kill me, Kakashi thought before glancing out from behind his tree as he saw Naruto and Sasuke investigating the crater where he had once been with Naruto's exquisite clone had been. Naruto investigated the crater and always saw was fragments of a smoldering log. Damn it, he used the replacement technique again. Naruto cursed as Sasuke rolled his eyes. "What? Were you really trying to kill our sensei Naruto?" "I know he said to come at him with the intent to kill, but I didn't think you really anticipated any of us coming close to doing that," Sasuke replied in a smart-ass tone as Naruto glared at him. Naruto could hear Kurama laughing in his mindscape as Minato sighed in disappointment. "I got to agree with the Uchiha on this one, kid." Although it was funny to watch the look of horror on that silver-haired brat's face, Kurama laughed. "Naruto, please refrain from killing my one remaining student. I know he's annoying, lazy, and worst of all a pervert. But that's not a good enough reason to kill him, Naruto." Minato scolded his son as Naruto chuckled nervously. Kakashi glared at Naruto as he smirked underneath his mask before sneaking up behind the blonde. "You know you shouldn't let your opponents get behind you. 1,000 years of death." Kakashi roared to the heavens as he made a tiger hand seal which he proceeded to ram into Naruto's rear end. For Naruto, the world just seemed to stop before he felt a large amount of discomfort building up in his bottom. Within seconds, Kakashi thrust his arms forward as he launched Naruto into the air as the young Uzumaki flew into the lake while holding his butt and screaming in both slight pain and embarrassment. As the Uchiha unconsciously grabbed his butt and began to back up away from his obviously crazy sensei who was cackling in a crazy manner. Kakashi then turned to face Sasuke, who felt a shiver go down his back. "Sasuke-chan," Kakashi spoke in a creepy manner. Sasuke dropped down into a fighting stance as he was ready to fight the creepiest Junin in Konoha. However, before Sasuke could move, a kunai flew past them, hitting the tree. Sasuke glanced to his left, hoping that it would be Naruto. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was Sakura. "Stay away from my Sasuke-kun. You damn boyfriend stealer," she declared proudly before charging at Kakashi with her fist cocked back. Kakashi easily sidestepped Sakura before lightly chopping her in the back of her neck, knocking her unconscious. "Well, now Sasuke, shall we continue?" Kakashi asked as Sasuke nodded. as he was ready to use another fire release technique on Kakashi. Wind release. Beast-tearing gale palm. Kakashi was forced to dodge as a large demonic-like clawed hand shot forth, missing him by inches as it demolished several trees. Where did you learn that from? Minato asked his son, and before Naruto could reply, Kurama stepped in. Well, Minato, I taught it to him. All he has is the shadow clone technique and the shadow clone explosion technique. He needs more techniques in his arsenal. Plus, when are you going to teach him the Rasengan or the Flying Thunder God technique? Kurama retorted. I was going to teach him the Rasengan soon anyways. However, the Flying Thunder God is way out of his league at the moment, Minato replied softly. Naruto ignored both his father and Kurama as he and Sasuke had to come up with a plan quickly to get those bells off Kakashi. It's not like he could start using magic right now. He only knew 3 spells of the most, and none of them were combat-based spells. He knew defensive circles, communication circles, and lastly teleportation circles. And the problem was, if he were to use them right now, it would raise far too many questions. This made the young Uzumaki realize just how insufficient his arsenal was. 4x Yasaka is lightly humming as she was chopping vegetables on the counter within the Uzumaki shrine. While she wasn't the biggest fan of ramen, she had to admit that Ichiraku ramen was absolutely delicious. So, she managed to get the recipe out of the old ramen chef with a little bit of magic, mind you. And surprisingly, the ingredients weren't that difficult to acquire. I hope Naruto-kun passes that useless pervert's test. He's been training so hard. I believe he deserves a treat tonight. Yasaka thought with a gentle smile on her face. She had been making Naruto eat more than just ramen since she started living with the young energetic blonde. She incorporated a lot more fruit and vegetables into his diet, as well as different types of meats and fish. However, Yasaka soon frowned. She could only wonder how long until the Shinto gods and goddesses realized that she was in this realm that supposedly belongs to them in the Hindu pantheon. The sound of boiling water caught her attention as she noticed that the pot she had filled with water finally came to a boil. Making her way over to the refrigerator, she opened it as she pulled out a bowl full of freshly made noodles that she had prepared earlier this morning. Naruto is going to absolutely love this, I know he will, Yasaka said with a heartwarming smile. However, a knock at the door caught her attention. Frowning, Yasaka answered the door as she did not recognize the chakra key signatures. What she saw before her was several anbu, but it wasn't ordinary anbu that served Hiruzen. No, the key difference was the ne kanji for root on their masks. May I help you with something? Yasaka asked in a slightly annoyed tone, although she tried to hide it beneath her usual polite tone. Is your name Yasaka? One of the root anbu asked in an emotionless tone. Yasaka wordlessly nodded as she was now on guard. Something was wrong here. Danzo-sama has asked for your presence. You will come with us at once, he said as he made a grabbing motion for Yasaka, who caught his wrist before breaking it. The root member dropped to his knees as he tried to free his hand from Yasaka's grip. Yasaka's pupil slitted as her ears and tails made themselves known. No, I don't think I will see this Danzo person you're referring to. I have much more important things that I need to be doing right now. So, I'll ask you this once, leave now, otherwise I will not be held responsible for what happens next, Yasaka said coldly before throwing the root member she had a grip on. So, she's a demon. No surprise that she is supporting the demon brat himself. Quiet you. You know that boy is Danzo-sama's ultimate prize and he will have him. Yasaka growled after hearing this. So, this man named Danzo is after Naruto-kun. I will not let that happen. I'll burn this village down to the ground before that happens, Yasaka thought before a large orb of blue flames formed in her open hand. None of you will be leaving this place alive, now be gone, Yasaka said before releasing a large wave of blue flames. 4x back within Training Field 7, the once beautiful forested and grassy area was burned. Scorch marks littered the grassy fields, while several trees were completely demolished. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Wind release. Beast-tearing gale palm. Water release. Great water wall technique. Earth release. Great mud wall technique. Naruto and Sasuke clashed against Kakashi and one of his clones, which resulted in a large explosion. Both Naruto and Sasuke looked like they had been put through the ringer, their clothes ripped, and they had multiple burns and bruises on their bodies. While Kakashi looked somewhat winded, as he was seen breathing somewhat heavily. I must say I'm extremely impressed with the two of you. Despite not knowing one another that well, your teamwork is almost perfect. Now if only the two of you can work with your other teammate, we would have the perfect genin squad, Kakashi said, grinning behind his mask. Well, Kakashi-sensei, you know as well as either one of us that would never happen. Sakura absolutely hates me and fawns over Sasuke 24/7. And I know for a fact she wouldn't hesitate to leave me behind if it meant being with Sasuke. No offense, Sasuke, Naruto said. I don't take offense to any of that, Naruto, because everything you just said was true. But if we're going to fail together. Sasuke said as he was trying to catch his breath. However, before Sasuke could even make another move, the sound of ringing could be heard from the other side of the training field. Kakashi gave a somewhat disappointed sigh. It seems his little test was finally over and he was really starting to like these two a lot. It seems like the test is over. The two of you have definitely earned a lunch break, however Sakura has not, Kakashi stated. 4x. When Sakura came to, she found herself tied to one of three logs and Naruto and Sasuke were sitting beside her holding their lunchboxes. Why the hell am I tied to this log? The pink-haired girl screeched in annoyance. That's because out of all three of you, you were the worst one of all. Naruto offered you his help, but you simply pushed him away, and yet Sasuke and Naruto put aside their differences and worked together and they figured out the hidden meaning of this test, which was teamwork. And if you would have accepted Naruto's help, all three of you would have passed. I'm going to give you half an hour to rest and regroup. And then I'll give the three of you a chance to pass this test again. And remember, Naruto, Sasuke doesn't give her any food, Kakashi said harshly. With that, Kakashi walked away. Sasuke didn't even hesitate to start eating. However, Naruto glanced at Sakura, who looked destroyed by everything Kakashi just told her. Taking a deep breath, Naruto quietly made his way in front of Sakura, while Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Naruto picked up a glob of rice with his chopsticks. What are you doing, you useless back? Gam. Be quiet. Naruto hissed quietly before pulling his chopsticks out of the pink net's mouth. The meaning of this test is teamwork, and we're going to need you to be at full strength if we're going to take down Kakashi. So just shut up and eat up. I already ate this morning, so I'm good. Naruto said before picking up another glob of rice as he was prepared to continue feeding Sakura when Kakashi appeared before them. What did I just tell you? I told you not to feed her, Kakashi said in a dark, sinister tone. Sakura was absolutely terrified, while Sasuke was about to get into a fighting stance. All the while Naruto looked completely calm as all the training he had done with his father, Kurama and Yasaka had really paid off. A smirk made its way onto Naruto's face. But Kakashi-sensei, didn't you say teamwork was the meaning of this test? And we can't fight you if one of our teammates doesn't have any energy whatsoever. Despite how much I may dislike Sakura, I would rather pass and be stuck with her on this team than go back to the academy, Naruto said confidently. Naruto is right, as much as I despise her, we need her to pass, Sasuke said before putting down his lunchbox and standing up. Despite how tired he truly was, he wasn't about to accept defeat. Sakura could only stare at Naruto with absolute disbelief. Despite how mean she was to him, he was willing to stand up for her. Even if it was for his own benefit. Maybe she would try to be a little bit nicer to him, just a tiny bit. Kakashi's eyes became less narrow. Is that so? The three genin nodded. Kakashi then grinned underneath his mask before giving them his famous eye smile. Well, then congratulations, you all pass. We are officially Team 7, we start missions tomorrow at 8 o'clock sharp, Kakashi said in an all too happy tone. Yasaka is lightly humming as she was chopping vegetables on the counter within the Uzumaki shrine. While she wasn't the biggest fan of ramen, she had to admit that Ichiraku ramen was absolutely delicious. So, she managed to get the recipe out of the old ramen chef with a little bit of magic, mind you. And surprisingly, the ingredients weren't that difficult to acquire. I hope Naruto-kun passes that useless pervert's test. He's been training so hard. I believe he deserves a treat tonight, Yasaka thought with a gentle smile on her face. She had been making Naruto eat more than just ramen since she started living with the young energetic blonde. She incorporated a lot more fruit and vegetables into his diet, as well as different types of meats and fish. However, Yasaka soon frowned. She could only wonder how long until the Shinto gods and goddesses realized that she was in this realm that supposedly belonged to them in the Hindu pantheon. The sound of boiling water caught her attention as she noticed that the pot she had filled with water finally came to a boil. Making her way over to the refrigerator, she opened it as she pulled out a bowl full of freshly made noodles that she had prepared earlier this morning. Naruto is going to absolutely love this, I know he will, Yasaka said with a heartwarming smile. However, a knock at the door caught her attention. Frowning, Yasaka answered the door as she did not recognize the chakra key signatures. What she saw before her was several anbu, but it wasn't ordinary anbu that served Hiruzen. No, the key difference was the ne kanji for root on their masks. May I help you with something? Yasaka asked in a slightly annoyed tone, although she tried to hide it beneath her usual polite tone. Is your name Yasaka? One of the root anbu asked in an emotionless tone. Yasaka wordlessly nodded as she was now on guard. Something was wrong here. Danzo-sama has asked for your presence. You will come with us at once, he said as he made a grabbing motion for Yasaka, who caught his wrist before breaking it. The root member dropped to his knees as he tried to free his hand from Yasaka's grip. Yasaka's pupil slitted as her ears and tails made themselves known. No, I don't think I will see this Danzo person you're referring to. I have much more important things that I need to be doing right now. So, I'll ask you this once, leave now, otherwise I will not be held responsible for what happens next. Yasaka said coldly before throwing the root member she had a grip on. So, she's a demon. No surprise that she is supporting the demon brat himself. Quiet you. You know that boy is Danzo-sama's ultimate prize and he will have him. Yasaka growled after hearing this. So, this man named Danzo is after Naruto-kun. I will not let that happen. I'll burn this village down to the ground before that happens. Yasaka thought before a large orb of blue flames formed in her open hand. None of you will be leaving this place alive, now be gone. Yasaka said before releasing a large wave of blue flames. 4x, Chapter 5 starts. 4x The three root Anbu all dodged a large wave of cerulean blue flames. While airborne they all threw kunai with smoke bombs attached to them down at Yasaka in order to temporarily blind her. A smokescreen, huh? Do they really believe this will give them the edge against me? Complete and utter foolishness? Yasaka thought as she began using senjutsu to detect the Anbu. Once on the ground, the three masked shinobi pulled out chains from their ninja pouches before throwing them in Yasaka's direction. However, before the chains could reach the vixen, she unleashed a large burst of Yuki, not only repelling the smokescreen but knocking the chains away too. You know it's not very polite to attack a lady. Yasaka spoke in a sweet tone which did not mirror her expression. Now be a darling and tell your friends to vacate their hiding spots. Yasaka demanded as her body was surrounded by a thick golden yellow flame-like aura. Damn it, how did she know? They're hiding their signatures perfectly. The root Anbu member wearing a monkey mask thought before gesturing for the other Anbu to join him. All 23 of Danzo's root shinobi had Yasaka surrounded. Yasaka herself did not seem that intimidated by them. While they may be strong, they seemed to be missing what made them humans. They were more like machines, now cold, emotionless and unable to feel. This man named Danzo was beginning to rub her the wrong way, and while Yasaka considered herself a pacifist, she wouldn't mind burning these men to ash if needed. Let's see here. 1 2 3 4 5. Yasaka began counting off. Oh. This hardly seems fair, there's 23 of you in just one me. Yasaka said in an obviously faked surprised tone. Drop the Theatrix monster and come with us. Failure to do so will only result in you getting hurt. You may be strong, but you're not strong enough to take on all of us at once. Releasing a small sigh, Yasaka raised her finger as she tapped the air. The moment she tapped her finger, a holographic kanji symbol appeared, which shifted through several different kanji symbols before the area became thick with a dark purple fog. Simultaneously, as a dark purple fog came to life, Yasaka snapped her fingers as she created a barrier around herself and the root shinobi in order to prevent any innocent casualties. What is this? One of the masked shinobi asked before he started choking on the fog as he dropped to his knees, feeling his body getting weaker by the moment. His vision became blurry, and before he could even move, he was engulfed in a massive burst of blue flames, reducing him to ash. Yasaka quickly vanished from sight, as she created dozens upon dozens of mirage-like illusions of herself. These illusions, as quickly as they came, they flickered away, appearing somewhere else. All the other Anbu trapped within the barrier were now succumbing to the poison mist, as they were having a hard time locating the real Yasaka, who was hidden in plain sight. What kind of witchcraft is this? It's not witchcraft. Yasaka's voice echoed throughout the barrier, causing all of the root members to look left to right trying to locate the blonde-haired vixen. It's Yujutsu, otherwise known as the demon arts. Your leader Danzo obviously didn't do his research. Sending you after someone he knows absolutely nothing about. Well, that's too bad for all of you. Normally I would prefer not to kill, but you're threatening to kidnap me. Show yourself, you cowardly bitch. Unfortunately, as soon as those words left the Anbu's mouth, an orb of golden energy shot forward, hitting him directly in the chest. Upon impact, the small orb caused an explosion. Afterward, the masked man dropped to his knees, gripping his chest, which was throbbing with pain. He looked up just in time to see another orb of golden energy rushing towards him. The orb made contact with his mask, exploding. The explosion caused the mask to shatter into splintered fragments as the man dropped onto the ground, fatally injured but not dead. Vines soon bursted out of the ground as they tangled around several other root shinobi. The vines quickly made their way around their throats, tightening quickly before incapacitating them. The 18 remaining root members all began weaving through different hand seals for different types of elemental ninjutsu. Fire release. Great fireball. Fire release. Dragon flame bullet. Fire release. Great dragon flame. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Water release. Raging torrent. Water release. Water dragon bullet. Lightning release. False darkness. Earth release. Earth dragon bullet. The Anbu sent their elemental ninjutsu attacks in every single direction within the barrier in order to flush out Yasaka. The ensuing chaos caused Yasaka to jump from her hiding spot as she narrowly dodged getting hit by a blast of lightning. Huh. That certainly was close, perhaps I underestimated them, Yasaka said softly. Without warning, Yasaka blurred out as the nearest Anbu simply blinked, before said masked shinobi hunched forward gasping for breath as an unbelievable amount of pain surged through his body. Glancing down, he saw Yasaka's fist firmly placed against his abdomen. He didn't even see her move. Yasaka took a step back as the root shinobi fell to the ground, clenching his stomach. The snake-masked shinobi managed to muster enough strength to get into a kneeling position. The remaining root shinobi charged forward, some wielding katanas while others wielded kunai, all intent on subduing Yasaka. The former Yukai Queen's body was completely engulfed in blue flames. Foxfire. Heavenly incineration. The blue flames surrounding Yasaka exploded in a 360 degrees wave of immensely hot flames that left the ground charred, and even caused multiple rocks to melt. The flames forced back most of the masked shinobi while some were severely scorched by the heat of the foxfire. Water release. Gunshot. Several root members declared in unison, releasing several large compressed blasts of water to combat Yasaka's flames. The result was the water-based ninjutsu being reduced to steam as the flames were much too hot. We're done with your games, Demoness. Ho, is that so? Well then, looks like I have to finish this up quickly before Naruto-kun comes home, Yasaka said before raising one hand up in the air while placing her other hand on the ground. I hope you all can forgive me, this is not going to be pretty, Yasaka said in a slightly saddened tone as she was preparing a more powerful ability. What is she doing? I don't know what she's doing, but we can't give her the time to perform this jutsu. The remaining root shinobi charged at Yasaka, as the blonde foxy woman opened her eyes. How rude, she whispered as her body began to emit a dull golden light. Oh, heavenly flames carried from the heavens down to the earth. I beseech thee, lend me your strength and allow me to incinerate my foes, as I unleash your heavenly wrath. Infernal blaze of the nine-tailed fox, Yasaka chanted before stomping her foot on the ground. The ground underneath the bodies of all the dead and incapacitated root shinobi began to turn red, as cracks formed. The earth itself had begun bubbling, turning into boiling lava. Even all of her still living enemies who were trying desperately to get to Yasaka, it was already far too late. They all began to sink in the small river of boiling lava before pillars of ghostly blue flames erupted from the lava, shooting up into the sky. The pillars expanded, engulfing and incinerating all of Danzo's root members. I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me, but I have no intention of seeing or speaking to this Danzo person, Yasaka said as she stared on coldly as the bodies of the Anbu were completely gone. Releasing a sigh, Yasaka's legs were a bit wobbly as she undid the barrier. Huh. I really need to start training again. All that time I spent in that office has really made me rusty and weak. And the difference in between me and Kurama-sama, it's not even fair. He rivals if not surpasses the heavenly dragons, and I'm barely comparable to an ultimate class devil. Yasaka scolded herself before noticing the damage she had done to the front yard of the Uzumaki shrine. Releasing a sigh, she realized she had to fix this before Naruto got back, quickly snapping her fingers as she summoned forth a magic circle. I'm so glad Inari-sama taught me how to use this spell to fix any damage done to a training field or residence, Yasaka thought to herself. 4x. Naruto was excited. He was an official genin and he, along with the rest of his team, would start accepting missions tomorrow. Upon arriving and entering the Uzumaki shrine, Naruto was greeted to the smell of ramen, not just any ramen mind you, but the irresistible scent of Ichiraku ramen to be precise. The very smell of it caused Naruto's mouth to water. Yasaka. I'm home, Naruto called out. Yasaka poked her head out of the kitchen. She was wearing an apron with the Uzumaki crest on. She was wearing oven mitts and in her hands was a large pot that was steaming. Quickly flashing Naruto a smile. I take it, you passed? To which Naruto nodded, giving her a megawatt smile, while Yasaka returned said smile. Well then, I decided to reward you with ramen, the same recipe that is used in Ichiraku, Yasaka said as Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Really? Naruto asked. One would think that Naruto would get used to how kind Yasaka was to him. But he was still getting used to it, so whenever she did something nice like this for him, it took him by surprise. Thank you so very much, Yasaka-chan, Naruto said, looking like he was about to start crying. Yasaka frowned while she was happy that he added the chan prefix to the end of her name. She couldn't help but feel bad for Naruto. The fact that the small little things she did for him always made him act like this. It bothered her deep down inside to see someone as pure and kind as Naruto, who was treated as if he was nothing more than a rabid beast. Pushing those thoughts aside, Yasaka gave Naruto another smile, although this one was a bit forced. Well, this ramen isn't going to eat itself, is it? Come along Naruto-kun, it's time to eat, I'm sure you're hungry. And you can tell me all about your day. Yasaka said as Naruto merely grinned as he nodded and followed her into the living room. 4x. 4x Sasuke had grown accustomed to being alone, and much to his own dismay Hiruzen the current Hokage had forced him to leave the Uchiha compound and live in a normal apartment. Sasuke avoided all the civilians and shinobi he passed on the way home. Seriously, they all treated him like he was a prince. He hated the fact that they literally worshipped the ground he walked on. It was sickening to him. They didn't treat anyone else in his clan like this when he was younger before the Uchiha massacre. However, as Sasuke neared his apartment he got the uncomfortable feeling that he was being watched. Quickly turning around Sasuke saw nothing, but he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was indeed following him. It's probably that damn fangirl again, Sakura. Sasuke thought as a chill went down his spine thinking about the pink-haired Haruno girl following him again. Turning around he continued on his way to his apartment. A small creature stepped out of an alleyway. It was black in color. It was fuzzy, had triangular-shaped ears, a small furry tail, and golden hazel eyes. It was a black cat and it had been following Sasuke ever since he left Training Field 7 earlier today. While the cat showed some interest towards Naruto, it seemed more interested in Sasuke. Sasuke came to a complete stop as he turned around and saw the small black beast making its way towards him. Raising an eyebrow, Sasuke crouched down as the cat neared him. What are you doing out here all by yourself? Were you alone? Do you not have an owner, or did your owner throw you out? Sasuke asked the cat, but soon realized that it wouldn't be able to answer him back. Was the response Sasuke got as the cat started rubbing against him, purring. Do you got a name, little guy? The cat hissed before scratching Sasuke on the leg, causing the Uchiha to jump and glare at the little furry beast. What the hell, you little demon? I just asked you if you had a name. Sasuke yelled before realizing people were starting to stare at him. Blushing in embarrassment, Sasuke quickly turned around and began walking towards his apartment as the cat started to follow him. No. Go to hell. I said no. No. Go haunt someone else. Goddammit. Did Sakura send you? After hearing Sasuke's outburst, the small cat tilted its head to the side in confusion. The cat meowed as Sasuke just sighed in defeat. Alright, you win. You can come with me. Sasuke said in a defeated tone as the cat simply meowed in a happier tone. 4x. 4x Hiruzen stared at Yasaka with a blank expression before glancing down at the mask that she had given to him. I don't know what to say, Yasaka. To think that arrogant power-hungry fool would go behind my back a second time. Hiruzen gripped the Rudanbu mask tightly in his hands. Yasaka raised an eyebrow in confusion after hearing Hiruzen's words. Hiruzen-sama, are you implying that this happened once before? This Danzo person sounds like a liability rather than an asset. If it's not too much trouble, could you tell me what he's done before? Hiruzen simply shook his head. I'm sorry, Yasaka, but I can't tell you that. It's an S-rank secret. If the public were to learn about this, Konoha may fall apart, and Danzo may be able to take control of the village in its weakened state. Yasaka couldn't help but frown. This Danzo sounded like more trouble than he was worth. I appreciate that you brought this to my attention, Yasaka. However, I must ask you politely to stay out of this. Let me deal with it rather than you. I would hate to see you get thrown in prison. Plus, seeing Naruto this happy is something I don't want to see him lose. I hope you understand that I'm not doing this to be mean. Hiruzen said gently. It's quite all right, Hiruzen-sama. I understand. I was just offering my help if you needed it. Yasaka said before leaving the office, as Hiruzen slumped in his seat before releasing a sigh of frustration. Why can't things just be simple for once? I'm really too old for this shit. Hiruzen thought. 4x. 4x Sasuke knew absolutely nothing about animal care. He thought it was a simple affair. While that was far from the truth, this cat was pickier than he was. Not only did the cat follow him into the market, but when he tried to grab a couple of cans of cat food, the cat attacked him, which resulted in him chasing the feline around the market. Eventually, he settled on getting the cat some fish, which the cat seemed to be very happy about. However, when Sasuke saw the bill for everything that he had to get for his new feline companion, he nearly fainted. Perhaps this would be something that would help both him and his feline companion. Sasuke had grown tired of being alone for around 4.5 years without adult supervision, and the loneliness was beginning to eat away at his sanity. It really made him wonder how Naruto was even capable of dealing with the loneliness. Arriving in his apartment, Sasuke put the 4 large bags down on the counter. One of the bags was full of nothing but fish for his new feline companion, who he found out was female. And he decided to name her Kuro, which stood for black since the cat's fur was completely black. Taking out the contents of the bag, Sasuke had several different varieties of fish, anywhere from mackerel, SCUP, salmon, tuna, and cod. Glancing at the cat, Sasuke couldn't help but sigh. You're gonna cost me a fortune, you know that. Oh well, it beats being alone, I guess. Sasuke said quietly as the feline rubbed against his leg before jumping up on the counter and proceeding to rub him in the face. The cat began to purr with delight as Sasuke began to run his fingers through her soft silky fur. NYA. Sasuke couldn't help but give a small smirk before grabbing hold of one of the mackerels and was about to gut it. However, Kuro proceeded to snatch the fish out of Sasuke's hand and ran off with it, shocking the young Uchiha. Well, at least I don't have to gut it. I can only hope that Kuro doesn't leave too much of a mess for me, Sasuke said before he grabbed the litter box he recently purchased as well as cat litter. After making himself dinner and eating, Sasuke decided to take a shower before turning in for the night. Normally he would train throughout the night, but he was tired from his training exercise from Kakashi and Naruto earlier. Sasuke climbed in the bed as he noticed Kuro was sleeping on the opposite side of the bed, not that he minded. Good night, you furry little shithead, Sasuke said in a friendlier tone, before turning off the lights and going to sleep. After a few minutes Sasuke had completely drifted off to sleep. Kuro lifted her head before standing up and stretching. I have a feeling I'm going to like you, Sasuke-kun NYA. The small feline said before her form was engulfed in a bright light, and what took her place was a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure, long black hair with split bangs, and hazel gold eyes with cat-like pupils. Her attire consists of a black kimono, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband. The kimono features a red interior and it is open at her shoulders, giving view to her large breasts. Her most prominent features were a pair of black cat ears and 2 black tails. The beautiful young Nekomato woman was roughly around the age of 17, maybe 18 at the most. She was surprised that pretty much every human in this world possessed chakra, a power exclusive to Ukai and Senjutsu users. She would have to do her research on this world, but it was intriguing, nonetheless. While she wouldn't mind being with the blonde Uzumaki, he reeked of kitsune and a powerful one at that. And she wasn't going to risk her own life just to get with him. However, Sasuke had an extremely powerful and potent chakra, despite it being darker and more sinister than Naruto's. For some strange reason she was attracted to it. Kuro was about to pull back the covers and cuddle with Sasuke when she stopped. She felt the presence enter his apartment. Kuro quickly reverted to her cat form before laying down on Sasuke's bed. She felt the presence enter into Sasuke's bedroom. While pretending to sleep, she opened one of her eyes just enough to see who it was. And it was a young man, a handsome young man at that, who was fairly tall and had a fair complexion. He had onyx eyes, under which were long, pronounced tear troughs. He had jet black hair that was pulled back in a low ponytail, and his face was framed with center-parted bangs that extended to his chin. His overall appearance was very similar to Sasuke's. The man was wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it. The man leaned down before placing a kiss on Sasuke's forehead. "Happy birthday, little brother," the man said before placing a card on the nightstand next to Sasuke's bed. The man quickly left Sasuke's bedroom, to which Kuro followed him. The man sighed before turning around and glancing at his stalker. "A cat," the man said in a slightly confused tone. However, the man's eyes soon widened as the cat turned into its true form. "Who are you? And why are you here in Sasuke-kun's apartment?" Kuro said, knowing that this man was most likely Sasuke's brother. "My name is Itachi Uchiha, and I am Sasuke's older brother." "If you truly are his older brother, why did you leave him here alone?" "I wiped out our clan to test the limits of my abilities, and I left him alive so that he could one day give me a true challenge," Itachi said coldly. Kuro glared at Itachi. "You're lying. Now tell me the true reason before I force it out of you," Kuro said before tapping her foot on the floor, causing the entirety of the room that they were in to turn gray. Instead of answering her, Itachi simply asked her a question. "What did you do? I can no longer sense anything around me, nor can I see the chakra of any nearby people," Itachi asked. "I created a spatial barrier around us. In simple terms, you can't leave until either you kill me, or I get the answers I want," Kuro said coldly as she was ready to use her Yujutsu and Senjutsu. Itachi simply stared at the Nekomato woman before him, before charging forward, attempting to knock her out with a simple strike. Kuro easily grabbed the older Uchiha's hand before twisting it painfully to the side. Itachi effortlessly swiped Kuro's feet out from underneath her, or so he thought. Kuro jabbed her fingers into Itachi's shoulder, hitting a pressure point and disabling his arm. Itachi pulled away from Kuro as he could feel a numbness spreading through his dominant arm. "You want answers?" Itachi simply said before blurring forward, delivering a powerful kick to Kuro's stomach. "Gah!" Kuro gritted her teeth before raising her hands above her head in an X-like formation. "Kasha!" Kuro growled as several dozen wheels of black flames appeared above her, and with a single gesture, they all flew forward at Itachi. The older Uchiha dodged the attacks before rushing forward and driving his fist into Kuro's chest while accidentally grabbing hold of one of her breasts. Ka! Kuro shrieked as Itachi unconsciously gave her breast a single squeeze before letting go of her and jumping back, staring at his non-dominant hand with disgust. He quickly glanced at the cat-like woman before he bowed his head. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Itachi tried to apologize before getting kicked right in the face. Itachi took several steps back before looking at the catwoman in front of him, now glaring. His black eyes turned blood red. There was 3 black tomo in each eye and a circular pattern around a small black pupil. Kuro was mesmerized by the eyes, however that was her downfall. She felt her consciousness beginning to fade. She tried to fight it, but nothing she was doing seemed to work, and finally, her consciousness faded. The spatial barrier that kept Itachi trapped faded away. The older Uchiha simply picked up the catwoman before tossing her onto the couch as he left his younger brother's apartment. Thanks for watching here.